Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Neo took a deep breath. It's do or die. Quest accepted. He heard Elizabeth calling out to him while he was staring at the screen. Neo Hargraves, are my words so useless that you think they aren't worth listening to? I apologize, Professor. I was wondering who will be the leader of the S-rank mission. His words touched the topic everyone was trying to ignore. 3 teams and 3 corners. Clearly, each team would handle one corner. However, a single failure could jeopardize the mission. All of them had to work together for the mission to be successful. A mission leader was necessary. Harrison was about to speak when suddenly Mars stepped out. The mission leader will be Neo. What? Why would he be the leader? He is one of the weakest guys here. Mars glared at the members of Zeus clan when they opposed his decision. It's about strength. Our team is the strongest out of all 3 teams. It's a given our team leader should be the mission leader. The students about to refuse noticed Leonora and Mars. 2 of the monsters were in Team Umbra. It was without a doubt the strongest team. He hasn't forgiven Zeus clan for the Phoenix's death. I better not let him know I was the one who allowed them to do it. Neo smiled bitterly. I agree with Mars' decision. Lucas stepped up. Neo should be the team leader. He looked at Arthur. What do you think? I'm okay with it. After the mission leader was decided, Elizabeth gave them the necessary equipment. A gas mask, 3 vials of healing elixir and divine energy elixir each, and a vial of black ink. It's shadow ink. You will be able to harm the shadow monsters if you coat your weapons in them. Shadows cannot be killed normally. Neo recalled the trouble he had to go through during the ranking tournament due to the shadow monsters summoned by Nathan. The students opened the shadow ink vials and used it on their weapons. Lucas, Arthur, Neo, Nathan, Jack, and Leonora did not open their vials. Why are you 6 not using the item? I have holy affinity, Professor. I awaken mine during the missions. I can use Aura Slash with Death Element. Lucas, Arthur, and Neo answered. Listening to them, Elizabeth nodded and stared at the other 3. I have Shadow Element. Same. H Holy Affinity. Shadow ink was created by combining poisonous substances with shadow elementals. It was harmful for shadow monsters. Since they could fight shadow monsters with their affinities, they saved the ink for later use. Everyone decided to suit up. They wore the gas masks and checked their gears. Neo opened the small case with elixirs and noticed he had 2 extra vials. The liquid inside them was darker. There was a note next to them. 1 vial of healing elixir and divine energy elixir. They are highly potent with strong side effects. Use them only if you have no other choice. Stay safe and don't die. The elixirs were potent enough that consuming 2 at once would destroy Neo's body. He would be knocked out after digesting even 1. Their effect was, however, similarly effective. They would show instantaneous effect unlike normal elixirs. Neo raised his head and met Elizabeth's eyes. Thank you, he mouthed. Elizabeth nodded. She seemed to have a lot to say, but she remained quiet. What are you thinking about? Christian asked. I was just... Neo shook his head. Never mind. It's nothing. I'll protect our team. It's my job as the tank. So stop making that worried face. Christian patted his shoulder and wore the gas mask. Neo nodded before he did the same. The 3 teams gathered. Should we ask the academy staff to send us into the window? Felix questioned. It's fine. Lucas can do it. He looked at Lucas and received a nod in return. Lucas joined his palms and rotated them into opposite directions. Open. Broken shards of silvery light flickered. They formed a swirling portal. The shards suddenly condensed into a single point. A beat later, they spread out and formed a portal that opened inside the window. The view of the other side was hidden by shadows. Dense shadow elemental rushed out of the portal. Hurry, Lucas muttered while he focused on maintaining the portal. Neo waited for everyone to enter the window. When he was about to step to the other side, the portal closed. Why did you do that? Neo asked. I wanted to talk to you alone. Lucas turned to Elizabeth. She pursed her lips and left. Now, Lucas stared at Neo. I apologize for everything I did. What? Neo frowned. I've heard about your bloodline. It was unbecoming of me to regard you, a kin of death, as nothing more than an insignificant bug. Who told you that? I can't reveal my sources. Lucas smiled. Neo clicked his tongue. Is this all you had to say? No, I wanted to ask about our mission. Lucas puckered his lips. How many will die? Neo looked it up at the window. He took a moment to answer. I can't predict death that far in the future. It's the domain of fate affinity. You should still be able to see something. Neo couldn't. However, it was an opportunity. As I thought, this guy was able to find my bloodline. He knew who leaked the news. He revealed his bloodline to his teammates, since he knew Lucas would find out about it. It was a good everything worked as I wanted. Lucas' cooperation was necessary. If lying would get him that, he would comply happily. Most of us won't return. I see. Lucas' eyes clouded. Again, I apologize for my previous actions. I hope we can put our differences aside and work together. Lucas raised his arm to shake hands. Neo smiled. That's a good idea. He held Lucas' palm. After the reconciliation, Lucas reopened the portal. The two entered the window. Why were you guys late? Hey, did something happen? Are you okay? The students surrounded them. There was no problem. I just couldn't maintain the portal and had to close it for a short time, Lucas answered. Suddenly, their watches rang. It's the alarm for our shadows. Neo swept his gaze to see how many among them would have a shadow. Their watches rang. It's the alarm for our shadows. Neo swept his gaze to see how many among them would have shadow. Us too. Clara and Sean, members of Team Lumen, revealed their watches. Harrison slightly raised his watch to show he had a shadow and stayed silent. 3 shadows. It should be manageable, Felix muttered. They surveyed the surroundings. Broken pieces of lands, with destroyed buildings, floated in an empty void. The gravity was messed up. Some pieces of lands floated upside down, and some floated directly at a right angle. High above, there was a swirling mass of shadows. That's the door to the depth level 2. Use your equipment to check if there is any corner at our current depth level. Neo commanded. He looked around and failed to see any shadow monsters. Shadows and shadow monsters were different. Unlike shadow monsters, shadows could use the abilities of their original counterpart and copy their battle tactics. Suddenly, another watch rang. My shadow is near. Arthur spoke. The group fell silent. Their nerves grew taut. They kept an eye on the surroundings when shadows of Harrison, Clara, and Sean appeared. All 3 of them are close-quarter combatants. Use long-range attacks to deal with them, Neo said. Let my team handle. I'll do it. Leonora cut off Lucas and stepped up. Remember our promise. She whispered when she passed by Neo. She chanted spells. 3 magic circles appeared in the air. A powerful water beam shot out of them each. The shadows dodged the attacks nimbly when suddenly the water beams changed their directions and followed the shadows. It was easy. Too easy. As if they were distractions. Neo's senses rang. He turned around and saw Arthur's shadow walking towards them at a leisure pace. It held daggers in both hands. Arthur is an assassin. Why is his shadow attacking us so openly? Don't tell me. Everyone set up your defenses. They were slow to heed to Neo's warning. Arthur's shadow opened its mouth. Unique skill, invincible. Black lightning gathered around it. A heavy presence slammed on top of the 3 teams. Christian stood before Neo and used his defensive magic spell when Arthur's shadow disappeared and reappeared behind Christian. Black lightning crackled, and Christian's head fell off from his body. Blood spurted from Christian's headless body. There was no time for anyone to react. Everything happened too quickly. Arthur's shadow disappeared again. Lightning crackled. Neo had barely enough time to use Ocean's Embrace. A sharp pain surged through his heart. The dagger pierced his chest, but failed to pierce his heart. Neo clutched his chest. Arthur's shadow appeared far behind him. It turned its head, surprised to see Neo alive. Before it could attack him again, a fire dragon and a condensed water beam attacked it from different sides. The attacks connected. Black lightning crackled, and the shadow disappeared again. It reappeared before Leonora and scathed. The dagger in its arm swiftly attacked her heart. A water wall suddenly shot up between Leonora and Arthur's shadow. The wall stopped the dagger. Leonora was about to attack until she saw the shadow twisting the dagger. Black lightning gathered at the tip of the blade and exploded. The water wall dispersed into a mist. Leonora sensed an attack and raised her arm to protect her neck. The dagger sliced her arm off and was about to slit her neck when suddenly the shadow stopped and retreated at a swift pace. An aura slash passed through the area where the shadow had been moments ago. The shadow looked at Neo, the one responsible for the attack, before it disappeared. Everyone waited. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 10 breaths. There was no follow-up attack. Did the shadows retreat? Jack questioned. Neo bit his lips. This damned protagonist, Shadow. Why is it using the unique skill from the get-go? Invincible unique skill could be used only once every 24 hours. The shadow shouldn't have used unless. Stay vigilant, Neo shouted. It hasn't ended. Unique skill, Thunderbolt. A black lightning bolt descended from the sky. The group dispersed to dodge. Neo ran and picked up Leonora since she was too shocked to react. That attack is powerful, but there is no way it will hit us. Why did the shadow use that? While they were distracted, fist-sized black portals appeared next to everyone's head. Arrows shot out of them at a lightning-fast pace. Neo detected the attack on time. However, he couldn't dodge with Leonora in his arms. He triggered Ocean's Embrace and used his body to block the attack on him and Leonora. He heard shouts of his teammates. Not everyone was able to dodge or block the attack. Christian. Neo was snapped out of his thoughts when he heard Leonora's broken voice. She was staring at Christian's corpse while ignoring her own injury. A thin water film, created by Ruby, stopped her arms bleeding, but she had lost too much blood. She could go into shock at any moment. Neo raised his head to scan the surroundings. There was no further attack. They probably retreated after the duration of Arthur Shadow's unique skills ended. He pressed his chest to stop the bleeding. Fuck. The last attack, probably by Lucas Shadow, took out 4 members. Clara from Team Lumen, Gwen and Kendrick from Team Astra, and Jack from Team Umbra. Nobody spoke. While they kept an eye on surroundings, they tried to organize their thoughts and calm their emotions. Too much happened too quickly. Neo picked up Leonora's arm and returned to her. Christian. She was shaking the corpse, trying to wake him up. Her eyes were unfocused. The scene broke Neo's heart. He had known both of them for less than a week. Still, he found it hard to breathe. His ears were ringing loudly, and he couldn't think of anything. His mind was frozen. Leonora, his body continued to move. This was no time to rest. Shadows could use shadow element and the elements they mimicked from the original. Unless Leonora's injury was baptized and healed quickly, her body would be contaminated by the shadow world, and she would become a shadow monster. It was the same for Neo. Neo took out the healing elixir given by Elizabeth. He took a sip and forced the rest of it into Leonora's mouth. She tried to resist. Drink it, or do you want to die like Christian? Leonora stiffened. She stared at Neo with unfocused eyes and gulped down the potion. At the same time, Neo carefully pressed the severed arm back against the stump of her hand. Circulate your holy affinity. She nodded. Veins wriggled on her arm, and black blood dripped out of the wound. The severed arm was attached slowly. Holy affinity and healing elixir put together were barely able to heal her. A scar remained where the cross-section of the severed arm met the stump. Leonora was breathing heavily. Her eyes were bloodshot and her lips were pale blue. She could lose consciousness at any moment. Raising her hand, she placed her palm on Neo's chest and baptized his injury with holy affinity. Thank you. Neo heard a commotion among the group. Sean, Clara's twin brother, held Arthur by his collar. Why can your shadow use the unique skill of Zeus bloodline? Why didn't you stop your shadow? If it could use the skill, you could too. Why did you let my sister die? Sean broke into tears. The mood of the group became heavy. Neo looked around and noticed Lucas staring at him. Stop them from fighting amongst themselves. He mouthed. Lucas nodded. He approached Sean and Arthur. As I thought, you had Zeus clan's bloodline. You knew about this? Sean questioned. I had a guess. Then why? Arthur's unique skill must have been sealed. The same is done to all illegitimate children of Zeus' clan. None of us could have guessed his shadow could use the skill. Zeus' clan being Arthur's origin was a great shock to Sean. However, he couldn't care less at the moment. You think I give a fuck? Tell me, why didn't you use your skills to fight back? We have 6 people from Zeus' clan here. The 6 of you could have easily overpowered Arthur's shadow if you used your skill. Lucas punched Sean in the gut. The hit knocked the air out of him. Don't blame others if you are too weak to protect yourself. Sean coughed. He held his stomach and glared at Lucas. Before he could speak, Harrison interfered. He pushed Sean. Skill invincible. You think it's easy to use? Of course it is. It's a skill. You can activate it with a snap. Did this damned idiot come to the mission without learning anything? Invincible leaves major aftereffects, sometimes even permanent injuries, upon its use. If it was easy to trigger, everyone with Zeus bloodline would have been spamming it. That's no excuse. Fucking shithead. If it's too hard for you to understand, then I'll spell it out clearly. We tried. We tried to activate our skills, but we couldn't due to elemental interference. The words made Sean frown. He opened his mouth. Elemental interference? Wait a second. You don't know what is elemental interference. Harrison blinked. He couldn't believe his ears. Fuck, this is why I hate you fuckers from outside God clans. Talent? Skills? Potential? How the fuck is it useful when you idiots are drunk on your success? Just because you entered the academy, when you have zero knowledge to back it up? What do you mean? Sean tried to argue back. It only angered Harrison. You try to fight your team leader and my team leader because of your lacking knowledge. Elemental interference. Not everyone could use strong skills, like invincible and powerful magic spells with their limited internal divine energy pool. Most demigods absorbed ambient divine energy from air and used it for these abilities. When 2 demigods used similar skills, say invincible, both of them would draw divine energy from air. The one who activated with the skill first would absorb most divine energy from the air. Thus, the other demigod wouldn't be able to activate their skill, or they could use only a weaker version. There were ways to avoid elemental interference, but they were hard to achieve. Okay, stop fighting. Blaming others is not going to help, Lucas said. The mood of the group was not improving. Neo opened his mouth. Nathan, did you analyze the area? Why, yes. Nathan was surprised when Neo called out to him. He checked his watch and shook his head. There are no corners on this depth level. I see. Store the corpses in your shadow space. We're going to move now. Store. Yes, you should know what will happen if we leave them here. Nathan bit his lips and nodded. None of them expected Arthur's shadow to go for the kill. It was not how shadows behaved. They realized it was due to Arthur being an assassin. The shadow acted how it acted. It did not capture the opponents and kill them instead. Suddenly, they heard noises and noticed dozens of shadow monsters running in their direction. They were lured by the corpses, Neo said. Lucas, Harrison, Arthur, and Felix. You 4 deal with those shadow monsters. Mars, protect Nathan while he stores the corpses. I'll keep an eye on the surroundings for sneak attacks. Neo stopped speaking when he noticed Leonora chanting a spell. He was fine since he drank only a little from the potion, but she was on the verge of losing her consciousness. A giant whale appeared in the sky. It let out a high-pitched cry and flew over the shadow monsters. Snowflakes fell down from its body. The flakes burst into frozen icicles upon contacting the shadow monsters. The icicles spread rapidly, freezing everything they touched. In moments, the shadow monsters were buried within a massive, gleaming iceberg. Neo looked at Leonora in his arms. She lost consciousness. Her head was burning, and her divine energy reserves hit rock bottom. She would have fainted either way, so she decided to faint after doing everything she could. She was lashing out after Christian's death? Neo picked her up and looked at his teammates. We need to keep moving. And Neo, there's something I need to tell you. Jack's corpse disappeared before I could store it. It's fine. He was a shadow wielder, so I expected it to happen. Doesn't that mean he is still? Focus on the mission for now. We don't know at which depth level Jack will revive. Trying to rescue him in our current situation is no different from a suicide mission. Nathan nodded with a stiffened expression. Let's go, Neo said. The group moved towards the swirling portal at the top. It was the doorway to the depth level 2. Neo remained at the back of the group. He took a look at their situation. 5 members died, and they could not kill a single shadow. They were decimated, and he had to kill Arthur's shadow single-handedly? Is that even possible? Status, Neo thought. Neo Hargraves. Rank, Grade 4 Awakened. Divine Energy Purity, Grade 5 Mythic. Stats, Strength, 28. Speed, 32. Dexterity, 26. Constitution, 25. Luck, 0. Affinity, Death, Shadow, Darkness, Void, Water. Magic Spell, Necrotic Touch, Ocean's Embrace, Essence Breath. Bloodline, Monarch of Death. Unique Skill, Death Immortal. Quest, Complete Barbados Training, Part 1. Defeat Arthur Kingsley's shadow single-handedly. He looked at his status screen. Yeah, it's impossible with these stats and spells. Neo couldn't win unless he cheated. He made his decision and spoke in a barely audible voice. Paimon, I want to make a contract. Do you want to revive your friends? It's not impossible, but I'm no longer a Grim Reaper. I'll sacrifice my blood. Paimon became silent. The blood of Hades' descendant was a nectar for anyone living in Underworld. Even for her. You do realize what that means, doesn't it? You will never be able to recover the blood you will sacrifice. I know, it was only a slight problem. He would gain more god blood as his rank increased and when he devoured others with darkness. What is that you want to exchange for your blood? Return the blessing of Underworld to me. Paimon thought about it. I can return your complete blessing temporarily, or I can return a part of it permanently. Make your choice. I can't gain the complete blessing permanently. I cannot do that without Barbados' permission, and I doubt he wants your blood. Neo was surprised. He wondered how strong Barbados was for him to think of Neo's god blood as worthless. I'll get my answer later. Partial blessing of Underworld wouldn't put him on par with Arthur's shadow. The group entered the portal to depth level 2. They felt as if they were drowning in quagmire. When they opened their eyes, they were in a similar but different location. The presence of shadow element in the air increased considerably, and the area itself grew twice as large as depth level 2. A few shadow monsters attacked them. Make sure your masks don't fall. Neo continued. Team Astra, deal with the monsters. Nathan, come with me. Lucas, Harrison, and Cassandra intercepted the shadow monsters. Nathan approached Neo with a hesitant gait. Darkness come. Neo used Coffin of Darkness. The darkness beneath his feet bloomed and formed a dome with Neo and Nathan within it. What is it? I want you to search for the shadows. Nathan's brow jumped. How can I do it? Arthur is an assassin, and others have their own unique techniques. I can't find them. Calm down. I have a plan. Neo explained. Use your shadow summons to infiltrate the ranks of shadow monsters. As long as you don't attack first, the shadow monsters wouldn't attack your summons. It should allow you search the entire depth level without any interference from the monsters. The shadow monsters summoned by Nathan were named shadow summons. However, the summons were not different from shadow monsters at all. Neo's idea sounded plausible on paper. On paper only. It's impossible. I don't have enough divine energy for such thing, Nathan said. Use the ambient divine energy. It's already infused with shadow element, so it should reduce the strain on your divine energy pool drastically, Neo answered. That sounds possible. Nathan continued with a perplexed expression. I should be able to do it if I follow your words. But was there a need to use Coffin of Darkness to talk about this? Nathan questioned. Arthur's shadow can use spells to eavesdrop our conversation. Don't forget he has sound affinity, Neo answered. Nathan's face hardened. He always knew Arthur was strong, but having him as an enemy was an entirely different level of nightmare. Neo patted Nathan's shoulder. Do everything covertly. Make sure no one catches a whiff of what you are doing, not even our teammates. Neo removed the Coffin of Darkness after Nathan agreed to the job. As soon as he came out, Lucas approached him. We've defeated all shadow monsters in the vicinity. Their next nearest group will reach us in 15 minutes. What about the corners? Lucas' watch rang. He read the details and opened his mouth. 2 corners are at our current depth level. They are in opposite directions. Left one is 1.5 kilometers away from our current location, and the right one is at 3.5 kilometers distance. Neo quickly formulated a plan. The original information given by the Academy said all 3 corners were at depth level 2. It was common for the information to be wrong since they used devices to collect data without entering the window. We'll split into 2 teams. 5 members each. Lucas, Harrison, Felix, Mars, Cassandra. You 5 will go to the corner in the east. The rest will come to the other corner with me. Putting Felix together with people from Zeus' clan could bring trouble. But Neo knew Lucas and Mars would stop any infighting. What if the shadows return while we are separated? Lucas asked. Adopt a defensive stance and use a flare to call back the other team. Lucas, use your portals to cover the distances quickly if a flare is used, Neo explained. The group split up. Neo, Sean, Arthur, and Nathan ran in the direction of the west side corner. Depth level 5, window number 12862. Arthur's shadow moved through the castle corridor. It entered a broken hall. The shadows of Harrison, Sean, Clara, and Lucas sat around on the rubbles. Good work, it said. Especially you, Lucas. Your ability to attack from outside their detector's range helped greatly. The shadows nodded. Arthur's shadow frowned. Why is it that none of you can talk, but I can? Unable to find an answer, it shook its head. Prepare that. I can't use the invincible again, so I have to be reborn. Lucas' shadow nodded. It created a portal and took out a black crystal from it. Upon seeing the shadow elemental seed in Lucas's shadow hand, Arthur's shadow nodded and pulled out its dagger. It stabbed its heart. The shadow's form shook. Black blood spilled out of its injury, and it died. Suddenly, the corpse of Arthur's shadow shrunk and formed a black crystal. The crystal was vaporizing into black mist at a slow pace. Lucas' shadow used the shadow elemental seed in its hand and placed it next to the crystal formed from Arthur's shadow's corpse. Both crystals fused. They stopped vaporizing and absorbed the shadow element, infused divine energy from the air. The crystal expanded. It transformed into Arthur's shadow. The timer was reset. I can finally use the skill again. The shadow played with the daggers. I can't understand why we have to mimic the weakness of the original 2. It turned around to look at other shadows. Do you guys know why it happens? There was no answer. The shadows stared at Arthur's shadow silently. A sigh escaped its lips. Arthur's shadow did not know why, but it felt lonely. West side of depth level 2, window number 12862. The mood couldn't have been worse. Leonora was unconscious and Neo carried her on his back. Arthur was silent, too silent, as he dealt with the stray shadow monsters on their path. Sean fought the monsters that slipped past Arthur's defense. However, seeing how he was not stopping monsters that attacked Arthur's back, it was clear Sean was not in the right state of mind. Nathan was busy controlling his shadow summons to search for the shadows. They reached an inconspicuous building. The detector shows the corner is inside there, Neo said. He continued as he looked at Arthur and Sean. I know you guys have a lot on your mind, but you need to focus on what's in front of you. If we fail here, none of us can return alive. Sean clenched his teeth. His arms shook, and before he could say anything, Arthur spoke. I'm sorry. Sean looked away. It's okay. I know it was not your fault, he answered after a short silence. Since you guys made up, let's enter the building, Neo said. He knew it was a stopgap, but it had to be done. They had to focus on the mission at hand instead of losing their cool due to the deaths of their teammates. Neo added, be on your toes. Strong monsters stay in the vicinity of corners since they try to absorb the elementals leaking from the corners. I don't know what we will encounter inside, but it won't be easy to defeat. They entered the building. The interior of the building was covered in darkness. Keep your eyes peeled open. Neo stopped speaking when he sensed a presence behind him. He turned around only to find nothing. What is it? Nathan questioned. Before Neo could answer, he sensed another presence rushing at him. Something came out of the wall. It was the face of a woman with hollow cheek and empty eye sockets. The woman smiled. She giggled and disappeared back into the wall. "Stay sharp," Neo shouted. Arthur and Sean took out their weapons. Suddenly, a hand came out of the floor and grabbed Sean's neck. It smashed his face into the floor before disappearing into the wall. A leg came out of the roof to flatten Sean's neck. Arthur arrived at the nick of the time and slashed at the leg. He planned to cut off the monster's limb, only to find his dagger passing through the leg, as if it was air. The leg returned to where it came from. It's a wraith. It can make its body tangible and intangible at wish. Our attacks won't connect if it sees them coming. Neo's words made Arthur frown. Intangibility? Isn't that too overpowered? Not really, Neo answered. He helped Sean stand. You okay? Cough. Why, yes, I was just caught off guard. Good, let's keep moving. The wraith kept harassing them on their way to the corner. Whenever they would try to attack, it would make its body intangible and their attacks would pass through its body harmlessly. Leonora woke up. She groaned and tried to move. Let's take a break, Neo said. They sat at the center of a long corridor. Neo put down Leonora carefully. He gave her a bottle of water. Giving her another recovery elixir, even if it was weaker, was lethal in her current condition. Thank you. She gulped down the water with trembling arms. Neo, the wraith. Is it okay to sit like this when it can attack us at any moment? Arthur asked. Yeah, it's fine. Look at this. Neo pointed at the ground. The darkness beneath his feet was not normal. Arthur realized they were inside the coffin of darkness. Monsters follow their instincts. The wraith won't try to attack us through the coffin of darkness. Isn't it hard to maintain something like this for a long time? It is. That's why I used it only when we had a rest. As he answered, Sean spoke up. What are we doing? We've been walking for over 2 hours, and we haven't reached the corner. I should have never accepted this mission. My sister died, and now, even I will die, stuck in a damned place that is making us walk in the same place over and over. He started to cry. His voice cracked. We aren't stuck in a loop. We are moving forward. It's just that this space couldn't bear the weight of high amount of elemental leaking from corner, and it ended up being stretched, Neo explained. No, we are in a loop. Can't you see we've been walking in the same corridor? As Sean calmed down, shouting will just tire you out. Arthur intervened. He tried to pat Sean's back, but Sean swatted his hand away and glared at him. Sean is beginning to lose his cool, Neo thought. While he was thinking of how to improve the mood of the group, he felt a tug. Leonora was holding the end of his sleeve. I'll deal with the wraith and the corner. Neo frowned. Leonora, although awake, was in no condition to fight. She had recovered only a small portion of her divine energy. Her eyes were shaking, unable to focus, and her breaths were short. You should rest. We can deal with it ourselves. And no, she said as she tried to stand. The shadows can return at any moment. Trying to close the corner while dealing with them will cost us greatly. Open the coffin of darkness. Her gaze was firm. She used the wall as a support and waited for him. Neo knew his words wouldn't change her mind. He sighed and released the darkness. The giggles of wraith returned. Hold your breath, she said. The group followed her instructions before she chanted a spell. A cry of a whale echoed when suddenly cracks started to appear on the walls. Water leaked into the corridor through the cracks. The flow increased. Like a dam had burst. The corridor was flooded within seconds. A whip of water held everyone by the waist. The Grim Reaper's giggles turned into the screams of Banshee. It came out of the wall. The monster was no longer smiling. It tried to attack Leonora. However, it couldn't touch her since it had turned intangible to avoid being blown away by the strong water currents. The wraith pulled at its hair. Its scream turned into cries when the building started to break. Canceling its intangibility, it lunged at Leonora, only to get smashed into the wall by a powerful surge of water. The wraith wailed as the wall beneath it cracked. It was crushed to death before it could reactivate the intangibility. Leonora stopped chanting the spell. She triggered another spell. The water stopped leaking into the building, and it began to turn into the mist. Cough! Cough! Nathan and Sean doubled over. Their faces were red from holding their breath for too long. Couldn't you have used an air bubble to let us breath? Nathan asked as he huffed. I haven't learned that spell. Why? 'Cause all of my clanmates can breathe underwater. Nathan flinched when Leonora mentioned her clanmates. He looked away. While they talked, Neo devoured the wraith's corpse. Reflex +2. He approached Leonora. How are you feeling now? I'm okay. It felt wrong to see Leonora, known for her laziness, push through pain and exhaustion to fight the monsters. Neo didn't comment on it, and instead told them to continue towards the corner. After the wraith died, it was easy for them to move around. The corridors ended after a long walk, and they reached a hall. There at the center was a crack in the air. Shadow elementals rushed out of it at great speed. Neo took out a circular object. He pressed the button on it and threw it towards the corner. The sphere exploded into white, sticky substance and covered the crack, the corner, like a cap. He pressed the earpiece. We have secured the corner at the west side. Team 2, report your progress. There was a short silence before the earpiece crackled to life and Lucas' voice flowed through it. We need another hour. Got it. The group sat in the empty area of the hall. Won't there be more monsters here? I doubt the wraith was the only one, Arthur questioned. He looked at Neo. Neo turned to Leonora. And my attack took them out, and our Ruby is guarding the building's perimeter. She pulled her hoodie down and tried to suppress her irregular breathing while she answered. Her face was pale, and she was sweating heavily. I don't think any monster can sneak in here, so WE should be safe. Arthur's brow furrowed when he heard her. What about my shadow and Lucas' shadow? Don't worry about them, Neo said. Neo was covering the hall's floor with darkness. It worked as an impromptu detector. I will sense your shadow as soon as it steps into the hall, even if it's invisible. As for Lucas' shadow, it can create portals only at places within its visible range. The hall is empty and open. It won't be able to catch us by surprise here. His words put them at the ease. They took a rest until they received an answer from Lucas. Neo's earpiece rang. We've secured the corner. Good job. He heard Lucas cough. Now what are we going to do? To close the window, we have to destroy all 3 corners at the same time. These stasis bombs are just a stopgap method. Lucas exhaled as he continued. The 3rd corner must be at another depth level. Who will stay behind and who will go ahead? They had to make sure the seal on the corners was not lifted by the monsters. And someone had to stay behind and destroy the 2 corners at depth level 2 when the others destroyed the 3rd corner. Neo looked at Nathan. They aren't at depth level 2, Nathan answered. So the shadows are waiting for us at depth level 3, where the last corner is, Neo thought. The shadows wanted to fight them after they split into smaller group. He understood this. However, they could not all go to the 3rd corner. Author's note. Thank you to all my readers. It's been fun to write Hades' Son, and we've recently hit 100 chapters mark. It's something I could do only because of all my readers who read daily or return to read the chaps every few days. With thanks out of the way, I want to talk about trivia section. I'm going to start. After writing 100K words, I've noticed I can't put all information in the novel, even if it will add to the world building, since it's not needed or is useless. From today, I'll add trivia to reveal these little world-building snippets I've been cutting out of the novel. Trivia number 1. Arthur's shadow spoke the name of the unique skills since it enhances the effect of the skills. Mimic skills and spells are weaker than the original, thus calling out their names to strengthen them is important. It allows the shadows to use attacks as strong as the original. The next trivia will be all in author's thought and not in the chapter. Make sure to check author's thoughts regularly. Harrison, Lucas, Sean, Arthur, Nathan, and I will go to depth level 3. The rest will stay behind. His words made them react. I definitely want to come to the depth level 3, Leonora said. Let me follow you. Mars' voice flowed from the earpiece. Neo pursed his lips. Looks like the deaths affected them greatly. He pressed the earpiece. No, I can't allow that. Mars, I'm taking most of the heavy hitters with myself. I need someone strong to protect the corners after we leave. There was a short silence before Mars responded. Okay. His voice was off, but Neo did not purse the issue. Leonora, I can't take you either. You are in no condition to fight. I can fight. I defeated multiple monsters after the Shadow's attack, and I dealt with the corner. She spoke in between her ragged breathes and stared at him with bloodshot eyes. In Neo, I will go to the depth level 3, either with everyone or alone. What? You think this is a game? You will die if you encounter Arthur's shadow in your current condition. The group flinched when Neo raised his voice. It was their first time seeing him like that. Christian, Kendrick, Gwen, and Clara are already dead. We aren't sure if we can rescue Jack. People are losing their lives. Leonora, stop acting like a brat. This isn't your clan. We won't pamper your requests. She clenched her teeth. Heaven's gifted. Genius. Leonora had been called with many similar titles. Her natural talent was unrivaled. It was why she could lazy around all day, skip training, and still stand on par with geniuses like Morgan and Mars. What if she had put in effort and trained diligently? I could have saved Christian. Leonora strengthened her resolve. She glared at Neo. I don't care. I'm with the next depth level. He let out a sigh. Fine, but I don't care if you die. When everyone became silent, Lucas spoke. Is it okay for 7 of us to go and leave only thee here? The shadows might attack them while we are away. That won't happen. The shadows will attack our group since everyone who has a shadow is coming with us. What if they're already at this depth level? I'm sure they'll go after Mars and others before following us to depth level 3. They aren't here. Are you sure? I am. Neo added. Send Cassandra here. She will guard one corner while Mars and Felix will guard other. Since Felix was too weak, Neo decided to keep him with Mars for safety purposes. Cassandra arrived at their location after a few dozen minutes. Neo explained to her about the current situation of the building. There are no monsters at the moment. You should be able to deal with ones who are lured by the corner, since this is only depth level 2. If too many monsters come at once, use the narrow corridors to fight them one by one while Mars come to your location. He gave her 2 slips of paper, one red and the other blue. These are one-time use communicators. They will work even if we are at different depth level. Use the red one if you and Mars can't deal with monsters and need our help. The blue one is to time the destruction of the corners. Understood. She looked far from enthused to receive orders from Neo. Is there any problem? He asked. No. She clicked her tongue and looked away. Our teamwork is a mess, Neo thought. He left with Leonora, Arthur, Sean, and Nathan. They met with Harrison and Lucas at the entrance of the doorway to depth level 3. Let's enter. Again, keep an eye on your masks. Make sure it isn't broken or loose. We can't afford a careless mistake like that. The mask created a translucent layer around their bodies. It protected them from the high concentration of shadow elemental inside the window. They would die without it. The group stepped into the swirling mass of shadows. They felt as if they were stepping into quagmire. Opening their eyes, they found themselves on the other side. The concentration of shadow elemental increased by several folds. An invisible presence was pressing down on them. Use your divine energy carefully. The air here is full of shadow elemental. There isn't much non-elemental divine energy to absorb if you run out of juice, Neo said. He looked at the group complicated gaze before releasing an inaudible sigh. This is going to decide how everything goes. Neo opened his mouth after he checked the watch. The 3rd corner is here. The indicator on the watch continuously. We will split into 2 groups. One group will deal with shadows while the other group, Nathan and I, secures the corner. Everyone stared at him with varied expression. Apprehension, doubt, worry. Just you 2? The monsters at depth level 3 are stronger than the previous depth level. Are you sure you want to face the monster guarding the corner with only Nathan? What if shadows attack you? Lucas spoke. We can deal with the monsters ourselves. The shadows won't attack us. Despite being strong, they're still monsters in the end. Their instinct is to attack the original to take over their bodies. Neo's words made Lucas stare at him for a few seconds. Lucas answered after a while. It's your call. I'll follow the orders of the mission leader. Everyone except Arthur agreed. We don't need to split off. It's better to deal with the shadows first than the corners. That's where you are wrong, Arthur. The shadows will revive even if we eliminate them. We have to destroy the corners if we want to close the window and leave. Defeating shadows is not our goal. It's a distraction that needs to be dealt with. Arthur did not look convinced. Neo added, "Don't worry. We'll ask for help if we can't secure the corner ourselves." Fine. Neo left with Nathan after explaining them the order they should fight the shadows. He created a domain of darkness when they were far from the group. Are we really going to secure the corner alone? No, I lied to them. A relieved expression appeared on Nathan's face until he heard Neo's next words. Keep a shadow summon near Arthur's group and use the others to search for Lucas' shadow. Lucas is smart enough to know what I'm planning, so he will make sure the shadow summon near them isn't killed. Is this too? Yeah, we'll go after Lucas' shadow as soon as Arthur's shadow attacks their group. Two of us alone against Lucas' shadow. He stared at Neo in disbelief. There is no other choice. Lucas' shadow can use portals. It can help the other shadows escape or ambush us easily. Unless Lucas' shadow was defeated, they could never win. Neo continued, "Had I brought anyone else with us, the shadows would have kept an eye on us and went after us too. This is why it's only us two. Look like I get your plan. But it's impossible for us to defeat Lucas' shadow. He is the second strongest from the Zeus clan after Morgan. Hell, he could have contended for the first rank if he was allowed by his clan. We can defeat his shadow. Didn't I do what he couldn't? I defeated Morgan, and I'm the ruler. You cheated back then. I had a plan at that time, and I do one now." Nathan suddenly became quiet. Despite everything, he was more afraid of Neo than Arthur. Arthur was strong, very strong, but only that. He had nothing other than his strength. Neo, however, was shrewd and smart on top of being a capable fighter. He displayed multiple times why he shouldn't be faced as an enemy. His plan back during the ranking tournament to defeat Morgan and rescue Felix. His team receiving a slot after they failed to clear the participation requirement for the S-rank mission. His crystal clear instructions after they entered the window. Maybe we can defeat Lucas' shadow. Nathan pursed his lips. Do you really have a plan to defeat Lucas' shadow? Yeah. It was not exactly a plan, but saying the truth would make it hard to get Nathan's cooperation. After receiving Nathan's approval, Neo canceled the coffin of darkness. They moved around while fighting and avoiding shadow monsters before Nathan received a feedback. He clutched his forehead and closed his eyes. My shadow summon following the team just died. Is it the shadows? I think yes. The summon said Arthur, and everyone suddenly took out their weapons. Looks like the battle started on their side. What about Lucas' shadow? About that. Nathan squeezed his eyes shut. I've been searching all high vantage points that have a clear view at Arthur and others. Only 3 places are left. One of them should have Lucas' shadow. He stopped speaking and took an audible breath. Found it. Another attack hit Sean's shadow and sent it crashing into a tree. The shadow grunted as if in pain. It struggled to rise as Clara's shadow fended off Lucas alone. The ground beneath Clara's shadow's feet cracked from the force behind Lucas' attacks. Sean's shadow staggered back to its feet. Its face contorted. The shadow could see the exhaustion in Clara's shadow eyes. Clara's shadow deflected another barrage from Lucas, its spear moving in an elegant dance, but its breath was becoming labored. Lucas smiled as he noticed its weariness. He raised his hand, and a portal opened above Clara, this one larger, darker. The energy that crackled from it was different, dangerous. Sean's shadow's eyes widened. He recognized the portal's purpose. It tried to warn Clara's shadow, only to realize it could not speak. The dark portal released a vortex of raw power that hurtled toward Clara's shadow. The shadow eeped to the side, but the edge of the blast clipped its side and sent it sprawling to the ground. The shadow gasped, trying to push itself up, but the force had knocked the wind from its lungs. Watching Clara's shadow helpless, Sean's shadow's rage boiled over. Exhaustion, anger, pain. It experienced them for the first time. Your synchronization rate is increasing. Lucas noticed Sean's shadow's expression. The synchronization rate represented how similar a shadow was to the original. 100% synchronization could be achieved only after the shadow devoured the original. Sean's shadow charged at Lucas, swinging its sword with all its might. Lucas merely sidestepped. He opened a portal to redirect Sean's shadow's strike, and caused the shadow to stumble. Using that moment as a chance, Lucas stepped forward, tightening his grip around the sword, ready to end it. In that moment, something clicked in Sean Shadow's mind. Impeccable teamwork. Sean and Clara were not strong individually, but together they were undefeatable. The memories and experience were adapted into the body of Sean Shadow. Its synchronization increased. Clara, now! The shadow, suddenly able to speak, shouted. Clara's shadow, barely standing, understood. It didn't need the details. Clara's shadow focused all its energy, summoning what strength it had left, and hurled the spear at Lucas. Not directly at him, but through a small portal Lucas used earlier. Lucas smiled as he noticed the desperation of the shadow's move. But then his smirk faltered. His eyes flicked toward the portal, and too late he realized the trap. The spear shot through the portal. It emerged from a second rift that Clara had calculated precisely and struck Lucas' side with a powerful force. He staggered, blood spraying across the ground. For the first time, the confidence behind Lucas's gaze faltered. He underestimated them. They had been planning for this moment all along. Sean's shadow saw the opportunity and leapt forward. He slashed down in a brutal arc. Lucas barely raised his guard in time. He summoned a portal to deflect the blow, but it wasn't enough. The sword grazed his shoulder, leaving a deep cut. He stumbled back. His portals flickered, unstable. The tide of the battle had shifted. Sean and Clara's shadow regrouped, panting but determined. Lucas was injured and weakened. The confidence behind his eyes vanished, replaced by a look of serious gaze. He pressed a hand to his bleeding side. For a moment, it seemed he would lose. Just for a moment. I can see why Arthur invited you two to his team. Neo was not exaggerating your abilities. He smiled. In an instant, the forest around them warped. Multiple portals opened simultaneously. They circled Sean and Clara, disorienting them. Lucas moved with a speed and aggression they hadn't seen before, even while injured. He vanished and reappeared with blinding quickness and stuck both of them from different angles. The shadows were forced to go on the defensive. Sean's shadow's breath was caught as he realized what was happening. Lucas wasn't playing anymore. He was using his full power. Before Sean's shadow could react, a portal opened beneath him, swallowing him whole. He fell through the void, tumbling into another part of the battlefield, disoriented. Clara's shadow tried to regroup with him, but Lucas was already upon Clara's shadow. He increased his attack's intensity while he still held the advantage. Desperation flashed in Clara's shadow's eyes as it parried, but the shadow was too slow. Lucas delivered a devastating blow. Clara's shadow was sent crashing to the ground. It tried to rise, but Lucas' boot pressed down on its stomach and pinned the shadow down. "It's over," Lucas said. He raised his hand for the finishing strike, but before he could bring it down, a dark flash of light erupted from the edge of the clearing. "Let her go." Sean's shadow, battered and bruised, returned. His sword glowed with the last of his energy. He threw himself at Lucas with a roar as he swung with everything he had left. Lucas, surprised by the ferocity, was forced to step back, releasing Clara's shadow. For a moment, it seemed like Sean might turn the tide once more. But Lucas, even wounded, was still the stronger. He sidestepped Sean's shadow's wild swings and opened one final portal. Lucas plunged his hand through the rift before Sean's shadow could react. He reappeared behind the shadow. With a single devastating blow, Lucas struck Sean's shadow down. The clearing fell silent. Lucas stood over Sean's shadow. He looked around. Clara's shadow was missing. The other shadow escaped. He snorted. It wasn't in any condition to fight, so there should be no problem letting it go. Rather, this is better. If I kill that shadow, it would just revive. It's better to leave it injured and make sure it can't join the battles. Lucas crouched and picked the black crystal. It was left when Sean's shadow evaporated after his death. He pressed his earpiece. "I've secured one shadow elemental crystal. Where should I send it?" "Send it to me." Neo's voice flowed through the earpiece. "I'll reveal my location in a few seconds. Be prepared." Reveal his location? Lucas looked around. Was Neo nearby? Although he understood Neo was searching for a shadow, he didn't understand how Neo would go about it. Neo's words about him revealing his location confused Lucas further. Depth level 3, south side. The domineering presence of shadow, elemental pressed down. It corroded everything in the vicinity. Where was I teleported? Harrison looked around. He stood in the center of a clearing. The energy of the unique skill Invincible pulsed through him. His muscles tensed. He tightened the grip around the sword and stared at his shadow across the clearing. The shadow wore the same face, wielded the same sword, but its presence was darker. It felt sinister. You know you can't win. You're just a shadow of me. The shadow smirked at his taunts. A shadow mimicked the original. It was always weaker, but, in return, it knew the original better than original itself. Harrison's shadow lunged forward without another word. Their swords clashed. A storm of golden and black sparks flew, and the ground beneath them trembled. Harrison pressed forward. He used his superior strength to force the shadow back with brute force. The shadow tilted the blade and let Harrison's sword slip. Harrison charged again. His shadow rolled to the side and dodged the powerful strike of golden lightning from his blade. It spun on its feet and slashed at Harrison's side. The blow bounced off Harrison's tough skin harmlessly. Invincible gave a major boost to all abilities. The boost acted differently for everyone. In Harrison's case, it increased his defenses the most. Harrison barely flinched when the shadow's attack connected. He smirked. Lightning crackled around his blade as he slashed downwards. His shadow leapt back just in time. The ground where the shadow stood moments ago was scorched and smoking. You can't even scratch me. You will never win. Harrison grinned. The original could never win against a shadow. That might be true for everyone, but Harrison was different. He was genius. He would not lose. Never. The shadow's smirk stayed on its face as it charged at Harrison, this time faster. Its strikes became more precise. Harrison parried each blow with ease. But he realized something was off. The shadow's movements weren't random. They were deliberate, almost rehearsed. Each time he moved to counter, the shadow was already a step ahead. It dodged and parried with uncanny precision. Harrison growled in frustration. He raised his sword high and summoned a surge of lightning from the sky above. Unique skill, Thunderbolt. The air around him buzzed with electricity. He brought the blade down in a powerful, swift arc. A golden arc of lightning descended. His shadow didn't dodge. It sidestepped just enough to let the bolt pass and hit the ground next to it. The calculated precision left Harrison stunned. Before he could react, the shadow closed the distance between them in an instant. It disappeared into a black arc of lighting and reappeared before him with a flash. The shadow's sword struck at his wrist. The attack barely had any strength behind it. It would never hurt Harrison, especially not when he was under the effects of Invincible. Harrison ignored the attack. He should have been able to brush it off. But something unexpected happened. Harrison's grip faltered and the sword slipped from his hand. The shadow capitalized on the opportunity. It landed a solid kick to Harrison's chest. Harrison stumbled back. Shock and pain flashed through his eyes. His skin was tough, but the spot the shadow hit was just below his sternum. A spot Harrison didn't even know was vulnerable. Ow! His voice cracked. He had trouble breathing, and he could not speak properly. Looking at his actions, the shadow continued to grin. And Harrison realized, a shadow knows the original better than the original itself. My weaknesses, habits, and fears. It knows everything about me. Harrison's heart pounded in his chest. For the first time, he felt truly exposed, as if there was nothing he could hide. The shadow's strikes weren't random. They were calculated, aimed at places Harrison didn't defend instinctively. It knows me better than I know myself. The shadow came at him again. Its blade targeted Harrison's wrists, elbows, and the small of his back, places Harrison didn't think twice about. Each strike was weaker than Harrison's blows, but they were more precise. Harrison gritted his teeth and blocked another attack. I can't lose here. Not me. The shadow was exploiting his habits. Harrison, who always fought with brute strength, was in a disadvantage. Harrison's shadow ducked under a wild swing from him. It slashed across his ribs. Harrison hissed in pain. There should have been no wound, but the shadow, capable of mimicking invincible, could fight against him on equal footing. It retreated before Harrison could retaliate. The shadow's mocking smile grew wider, as if it was taunting him, calling him weaker, a loser. Harrison's eyes narrowed. He wanted to let loose and attack in a berserk rage. But he held on. He knew attacking without a plan would get him killed. Predictable. That word echoed in his mind. It cut deeper than any sword. The shadow wasn't stronger. It was just playing to Harrison's weaknesses, his habits, his overconfidence. Suddenly, realization struck. My habits. The shadow knew exactly where he'd swing, where he'd step, how he'd move. It wasn't the shadow's strength that was the problem. It was Harrison's own predictability. He had been relying on the same moves and the same strategies since forever. The shadow was not beating him. He was beating himself. Harrison had to surpass himself. That was the only way to win. Everyone is busy with their battles. They can't help me. If I lose, I die. Harrison could hear his heart beating against his chest. He was in danger, and he felt a thrill unlike ever before. Harrison grinned ferociously. The golden lightning crackling around him flared. His breathing slowed. He focused not on overwhelming his shadow with power, but on breaking the patterns the shadow exploited. I can win this. I just have to fight smarter. When his shadow lunged forward again, Harrison didn't respond with brute force. He sidestepped. Normally, he would have met the attack head-on. His abrupt action took the shadow by surprise. Its eyes widened for a split second, unable to understand the cause behind the change. Harrison capitalized on the moment. He brought the sword down in a swift, unexpected angle. The blade crackled with golden lightning and struck the shadow's shoulder. The shadow staggered. It gritted its teeth in pain. The wound was shallow since the mimicked invincible strengthened it. But the attack shook the shadow. Harrison pressed forward. He switched his style and moved unpredictably. His strikes were different, angled, timed, and powered in ways the shadows hadn't anticipated. Harrison, after understanding his weakness, broke free of his old habits, and for the first time, the shadow struggled to keep up. The two exchanged blows after blow. Their figures blurred. They looked like flickers of lighting dancing around in a dance of fury and chaos. Harrison moved with precision. He tried to exploit the small opening he had created. His confidence returned, stronger than ever. The shadow was on the back foot. It was barely able to parry his attacks. I told you, Harrison growled, his voice thick with determination. You're just a shadow. At the final moment, Harrison summoned a massive bolt of lightning from the sky. This one was far larger and stronger than before. The air crackled with electricity as he brought it down in one devastating strike aimed directly at the shadow's head. But just as the attack was about to connect, the shadow smirked. A black portal opened between them. Harrison's strike disappeared harmlessly into it. Lucas' shadow is helping it. Before Harrison could even process what was happening, the shadow reappeared behind him. It slashed. The blow was not strong, and it didn't need to be. It struck the back of Harrison's neck, the one spot where his impenetrable skin was the weakest. Harrison's body seized up as the shadow's blade discharged a pulse of lightning directly into his spine. His sword slipped from his hand, and his legs buckled. He collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The shadow stood over him. It smirked triumphantly. This damned fucker. The shadow ignored his anger. It grabbed his head with both hands. Suddenly, the shadow's form shook. Its skin crumbled into black motes of energy that entered Harrison's orifices. Harrison did his best to resist while the shadow tried to overtake his body. He could not move after the shadow's last attack at his nape. His divine energy flowed slowly, like sludge, since the invincible was at its limit, and he couldn't use his spells. Harrison clenched his teeth. He tried to hold on and search for a way to stop the shadow. Depth level 3, extreme west side. Neo and Nathan stood at the edge of a small road. The world around them was broken while the gravity defied the laws of nature. Floating debris and crumbling ruins were scattered around. The road beneath them was cracked and fragmented, and every few feet, chunks of pavement hovered in the air. The place is worse than other locations. Lucas' shadow must have come here since it's easy to hide here, Neo said. He gazed at the surroundings. Some of the buildings were ripped from their foundations entirely. They hovered at odd angles and casted flickering shadows over the chaotic ground below. Wreckage of buildings, vehicles, steel beams, chunks of concrete, shattered glass. Everything drifted without purpose. Nathan pointed at the roof of a building that hung upside down in the air. It was as though the structure had been torn from reality and flipped on its head. Lucas' shadow is there. Can it see us? I doubt it. This place is filled with broken wreckages that are hiding us. Besides, the shadow is assisting other shadows in their battles. It doesn't have leisure to search for us, Nathan answered. He pursed his lips. Lucas' shadow was dangerous. It was only slightly weaker than Lucas. Moreover, its ability to use portals made it nearly impossible to defeat since the shadow could run away when it was on the verge of losing. So what's the plan? Nathan questioned. Instead of answering, Neo posed another question. Can you use Noctis Burst spell? How did you even know I can use that? Sigh, never mind. Nathan massaged his nose. Back in the academy, he used the spell once during the missions. Felix uploaded the videos of their mission to the private website of the academy. Neo might have seen the Noctis Burst spell in those videos. The one I can use is not very powerful since my mastery is low. It is far weaker than the standard version you can see other shadow wielders using and... Can you use or not? A simple yes, no is enough. Yes, I can use it. But why? Nathan asked. I need you to attack Lucas' shadow with a Noctis Burst spell. Since it's a long-range spell, you should be able to use it from this distance, Neo answered. Wait. What? Nathan's eyes shot wide open. He took a step back and shook his head. Impossible. You want me to attack Lucas' shadow? I'm too weak to fight him. Calm down. You can retreat after the first attack. I'll handle it from there. What do you mean by that? Noctis Burst spell can stop Lucas' teleportation ability for a few seconds. That's the only moment when we could defeat Lucas' shadow. Nathan understood what Neo was trying to say. Noctis Burst spell was a condensed sphere of shadow elementals. It exploded upon contact with the target. The high concentration of shadow elementals released from the explosion would disrupt the elementals in the air. That included space elementals. Let alone Lucas' shadow, even Lucas would not be able to manipulate the space elementals to create portals after he was hit by Noctis Spell Burst. But I can't stop Lucas for more than 5 seconds. How the hell are you going to defeat the Lucas in 5 seconds? Nathan pointed at the path between their location and Lucas' shadow's location. We are several hundred meters apart, and the path is filled with debris and shadow monsters. Look at that. A massive shadow monster with long arms and sharp claws slept on the ground. That thing is as strong as the wraith we fought. There are dozens of monsters with similar strength around the building where Lucas' shadow is hiding. The shadow chose that location because it knew the monsters would act as alarm for it in case it was ambushed. 5 seconds will be up before you cover half of the distance. There is no way you could defeat Lucas' shadow when you can't even reach it. You'll just die. Nathan bit his lips and looked away. We should make another plan. It's fine. Neo smiled at Nathan's concern. Just trust me. He put his hand over Obidus' hilt. Since he could fight at his full strength after Obidus awakened, he was confident. It was not easy to convince Nathan, but Nathan had to agree to the plan after Neo remained firm on his decision. I'll start. Nathan chanted the Noctis Burst spell. Motes of black energy gathered above his palm. They formed a condensed, swirling mass of shadows. The spell flew through the air and struck the building where Lucas' shadow was. Hundreds of shadow hands came out from the explosion. They wrapped around the buildings. The concentration of shadow elementals in the vicinity increased by several folds. He knows we are here. Go now. Neo dashed forward. The shadow monsters, alerted by the attack, turned to Neo. Be calm. Neo exhaled. I can do it. He didn't know how strong he would be after releasing Obidus from his sheath. His current actions were a gamble with his life on the life. If he had a choice, he would have not taken it. Neo pressed his thumb against the hilt of the sword at his waist and pushed it out of its sheath slightly. Instantly, the debuff that weighed him down vanished, and a surge of energy coursed through him. His speed exploded. The world around him turned into a blur of light and shadows. Monsters lunged at him, but they were too slow. Neo weaved between them like a phantom. Their claws and fangs missed him by a fraction of a second. His speed was overwhelming. He turned into a blur that even the sharpest eyes couldn't follow. The monsters rushed at him from all directions like a giant tsunami. Neo leapt above them. He used the floating debris as foothold and made a straight beeline towards the rooftop where Lucas' shadow hid. As he neared the building, he saw Lucas' shadow. The shadow stared at him with a smile. It pulled the bow taut and aimed towards Neo's head. The air around the bow trembled. Although the shadow was unable to use portals for the moment, it could not be underestimated. Lucas used the portals to battle, not because he was weak without them, but because they were convenient. He was one of the strongest demigods of his generation for a reason. Neo's eyes narrowed. He didn't slow. The shadow released the arrow. It turned to a black bolt of energy that tore through the air with deadly precision. Neo drew his sword with a fluid motion. As the blade left its sheath, it became wrapped in darkness. The aura of death and darkness swirling around it extended the sword's length massively. He slashed through the air in one smooth strike. The blade cleaved through the oncoming arrow as if it was made of paper. The bolt of energy was split in two. The strike didn't stop there. It cut across the shadow's body and sliced him in half with a single decisive blow. The giant blade continued onward. It split the building where Lucas' shadow stood moments before. Neo landed on crumbling building gracefully. His blade reverted to its true size before he returned it to the sheath. The fight was over with a single strike. Neo looked at the shadow's corpse. The shadow, split into two halves, continued to smile. It was dead before it knew what had happened. It wouldn't have lost so easily if it didn't underestimate me and used invincible. Neo shook his head. As the shadow disintegrated, Neo picked the elemental seed it left behind and devoured it. Divine energy +1. I don't think this is enough to defeat Arthur's shadow. Neo exhaled. He was about to call Paimon when suddenly he saw something far in the distance. In the northeast direction, white mist covered everything. Neo could not see what was happening there. That must be where Arthur and others are fighting against Arthur's shadow. Squinting, he turned his gaze to the south and, far into the distance, he could see Harrison about to be devoured by a shadow. Neo's face hardened. He was too far to do anything. No, I need to try. We need as many peoples as alive if we want to win. Neo looked around. He tore apart a long rebar from the floating wreckages. Just as he was about to pull the sword out of the sheath, a voice spoke into his mind. You don't need to unsheathe me every time. As long as you wish, I'll remove the burden over you. Neo nodded. He followed Obaida's words and thought about removing his debuff. Instantly, endless power surged through his body. The sword began to absorb his divine energy at a rapid pace. Neo tightened his grip around the rebar. He wrapped the aura of death and darkness around the iron pole and pulled his hand back. Depth level 3, south side. The shadow held Harrison's head in a tight grip. He tried to break free. It was useless. His shadow continued to contaminate him. Harrison's consciousness blurred. He was being overtaken by the shadow, losing himself to it. I can't fall here. Harrison struggled to keep his eyes open. A single mistake was about to cost him his life. The shadow would replace him, and no one would ever realize the original Harrison was long gone. I don't want that. His chest heaved. Don't fuck with me. He grabbed the shadow's wrist with a last surge of strength and tried to flip it over. The shadow scoffed. It didn't budge. As Harrison's shadow, it always knew what he could and would do. There was no way Harrison was going to win against it. Maybe he shouldn't have insisted on fighting his shadow alone and asked for someone's help. If Lucas was here with him, Harrison could have won. Harrison realized he was defeated. Regrets started to slip in. The last vestige of his consciousness was about to disappear when suddenly he heard the noise of air being torn apart. An iron rebar hit the shadow's head from the side and pierced its head. The powerful momentum behind the throw carried the shadow's body away and pinned it into the ground far from him. Harrison was free. He heaved. The shadow, despite having a pole shoved through its head, continued to move. The mimicked invincible kept it alive. Red lightning wrapped around the rebar surged. It flowed into the shadow's body through the iron pole and killed it from the inside. The shadow stopped moving and it fell with a limp. Who was it? A single attack killed his shadow. Only Morgan could achieve such feat, but she never came with them into the window. Harrison turned his head. He stared in the direction from where the iron rebar came flying. There is no one there. He squinted. Far into the distance, he could see broken wreckages flying around. The distance was too great for Harrison to see the person who threw the rebar. But red lightning. There was only one person among them who could manifest death element. Neo. He saved Harrison by defeating his shadow from a distance where Harrison couldn't even see anything, and that too in a single attack. Harrison's face contorted. Had Neo been hiding his strength? Was it funny to act like a weakling while he waited for an opportunity to reveal his strength? The gratitude and relief that came from behind, saved, turned into something darker. Harrison punched the ground. Depth level 3, extreme south side. It doesn't look like he appreciates the help. Neo could see the frustrated expression on Harrison's face. He did not regret saving Harrison. It was his job as the mission leader. Suddenly, a silvery portal appeared behind him. Lucas stepped on the rooftop. He smiled wryly. I never knew you could use such a massive aura blade. It was visible from my location even though we were so far. He gave the Sean Shadow's elemental seed to Neo. The elemental seed was almost half evaporated. After the seed evaporated completely, it would reform at the deepest part of the window and the shadow would be revived. What are you going to do with the elemental seed? This. Neo used darkness to devour it. The voices returned for a brief moment. Digestion +3. Isn't that harmful to you? If you keep devouring everything, your body will enter a state of imbalance where your secondary stats are completely mismatched, Lucas asked. This is the only way we can make sure the shadows don't get revived. Neo knew a way to handle the imbalance. Though, he would not reveal that to Lucas. Bring Nathan here, Neo said. Lucas used a portal to teleport Nathan after Neo revealed his location. Nathan stepped onto the rooftop with a strained expression. How did you do that with a single attack? Lucas realized something was wrong with Nathan's words. What do you mean by that? He defeated your shadow with a single attack. Lucas' smiling face stiffened. He stared at Nathan as if he had heard an absurd joke, but Nathan's half-awed, half-afraid face made it clear he was not joking. Stop talking about unnecessary things. The shadow monsters are climbing the building to attack us. Let's move somewhere else. Neo's words snapped them out of the shock. He added, we should meet up with Harrison before regrouping with Arthur and others. Lucas nodded. He quickly composed himself, and the determination in his gaze solidified. Lucas, able to see Harrison despite the distance, created a portal. The three entered the portal. They appeared next to Harrison. Harrison was in a daze. Half of his body had been contaminated with shadow elementals, and he was on the verge of becoming a shadow monster. Lucas used Holy Affinity to baptize Harrison. While they were busy, Neo devoured the elemental seed left behind by Harrison's shadow. Constitution +1. Now only Clara and Arthur's shadows are left. Clara's shadow was not a threat alone. They had to focus on Arthur's shadow. Neo looked around. He made sure no one was looking at him. Paimon, I want to make the contract. Are you thinking of fighting against the Lightning Clan's boy? Yes. The skeletal doll on Neo's shoulder held a tiny fan in her hand. She used it to hide her mouth. I hope you are not overestimating yourself after the chains binding you disappeared. Good. Seems you have a clear grasp of your limits. She smiled. So what do you want? A full blessing that will disappear after one use, or the partial blessing that will remain with you forever? Give me the partial blessing. Neo made his decision after careful consideration. He had to look at the future. Losing almost half of his god blood in exchange for the blessing would weaken him greatly. On top of that, if he took the temporary blessing and lost it after one use, he would become weaker than a grade 5 awakened demigod. Done. I've unsealed the blessing. I don't feel any different. Paimon smiled at his words. I've used your sword to link your blessing to you. You should be able to feel the blessing's effect when you unsheath it. What about the god blood? It doesn't seem like you've taken it. Indeed, I haven't. I'll take your god blood after you've returned from this mission. Until then, use the blessing to complete the mission. Paimon closed the fan. I need to return to the underworld. Barbados is complaining about unsealing your blessing. Her figure started to disappear. Before she left, she flew and patted his head. May you be in good health and prosperity when we meet next again, child. Paimon disappeared. Thank you, Neo said. Although she had left, Neo had a feeling she heard him. Suddenly, Neo's earpiece came to life. Arthur's voice followed through it. Neo, I need your help. Come here quickly. He sounded desperate. What happened? There's no time to explain. Please be quick. Got it. An ominous promotion seeped into Neo's heart. He turned to Lucas. We need to regroup with Arthur. Lucas nodded. Since Arthur was not within his line of sight and out of the range of his senses, he had to create multiple portals. They returned as quickly as possible. Depth level 3, northeast side. 15 minutes ago, the white mist curled around Arthur and Leonora. Arthur held his daggers in reverse grip and waited for his shadow to attack. Leonora stood with her back against Arthur's back. Her breathing was labored. She was exhausted due to the aftereffects of Neo's elixir, and her divine energy had barely recovered. Stay sharp, Arthur warned her. His heart thumped against his chest. He was nervous and afraid. The shadow can use invincible already. Did it kill itself to reset the skill countdown? It was bad news. Leonora, don't let the mist disperse. My shadow should be able to sense us with the sound affinity, but the mist still blocks its vision. Okay, she was used to fighting in the mist. It didn't hinder her as it did others. Leonora used an ice defense spell to create an armor. The sound of lightning crackling echoed from all directions. Arthur tried to concentrate and use his sound affinity to locate the shadow. It was of no use. The shadow was faster, much faster, thanks to the invincible skill that Arthur could not use himself. It's near, he whispered. MHM. Leonora prepared to cast spells. Her holy affinity was their only advantage against the shadow, but she was too exhausted to make full use of it. Suddenly, there was a sharp shift in the mist. The shadow appeared at the corner of their vision. It looked no different from a black lightning running around. A portal flickered open at its side, conjured by Lucas' shadow, and it stepped through it. Arthur's breath was caught in his throat. Portals. Lucas' shadow was helping it. Arthur's expression worsened. Lucas' shadow's ability to sense them inside the mist spoke volume of Lucas' talent. Unfortunately, it was no time or place to praise him. The shadow reappeared next to Leonora without warning. It swung the dagger towards her neck. Leonora reacted just in the nick of time. She created a wall of water to block the strike. The force of the blow sent her staggering back. Her ice armor cracked. Leonora, Arthur rushed forward to shield her. Another portal opened beneath his feet. His shadow jumped out from it and slammed a fist into his gut. Arthur doubled over in pain. The air was forced from his lungs. His vision blurred for a split second. The shadow's speed was terrifying. It was enhanced beyond anything what Arthur and Leonora could match. Leonora struggled to regain her balance. She summoned a shard of holy ice and threw it with all her strength. It shot through the air, glowing with divine energy, aimed straight at the shadow's heart. But the shadow turned into lightning and dodged it effortlessly. Another portal opened, and the shadow vanished again. It was toying with them with its overwhelming speed and the portals to stay untouchable. Arthur gritted his teeth. He focused on the faint ripples of sound around him. His shadow was close, too close. A flash of light erupted and the shadow reappeared behind Leonora again. The shadow's dagger coated in black lightning moved toward her throat. Leonora, watch out. Arthur shouted. He was too far to intervene. Leonora's eyes widened. Time seemed to slow down, her body too tired to react. She could see the blade coming, the strike that would end her. If only she had trained like others. If only she did not laze around, drunk on her talent. She would have known how to fight, even if she was exhausted. She could have pushed herself beyond her limit. But there were no second chances. The dagger slid across her throat. Blood poured out from the wound. No! Arthur's scream tore through the mist. Another person died because he was too weak, because he could not defeat his own shadow. In that moment, as death loomed closer, something shifted in Leonora's mind. This was it, her last chance. The shadow thought it had won and let down its guard. Leonora's hand glowed with one last surge of holy energy. The moment the shadow's blade cut her, she unleashed her magic in a blinding explosion of light. Holy magic, the shadows were weak against it. Arthur's shadow staggered back. Its body writhed in agony as the holy energy seared his flesh and broke through its mimicked invincible. The shadow never expected it. It thought it had won. It should have won. But Leonora used her own impending death to deal the final blow. Defeated, Leonora spoke as she tried to stop the blood flowing out of her wound. Arthur gritted his teeth. He rushed forward. His gaze was filled with desperation and fury. He pulled a small vial from his coat before uncorking it with his teeth. Shadow ink. The trump card against the shadows, even his shadow. Arthur's shadow remained calm. Although it was injured from Leonora's attack, it could escape through the portals easily. The portal never materialized. Unknown to Arthur's shadow, Neo had just slayed Lucas' shadow. The shadow could not escape. Arthur didn't hesitate. He dashed forward with all his might. In one swift motion, he plunged the dagger into the shadow's chest and smashed the vial of shadow ink inside its mouth. The shadow gasped. Its eyes widened, and it tried to puke the shadow ink. The poison coursed through its veins, and it died a slow death, unable to do anything. Arthur almost collapsed. He was exhausted beyond limit after pushing himself to fight the shadow. Despite the seemingly simple battle, he had to block multiple attacks of the shadow that was boosted by Invincible. He rushed to Leonora. Wait a second, I'll use an elixir. Use your holy affinity too. That will definitely heal you. He tried to pull another vial and poured it over her wound with trembling hands. Her body was limp. Blood still trickled from the wound at her throat, but her eyes, though fading, remained fierce. The dash. Leonora tried to speak and choked on her blood. She did not try to use her holy affinity to heal herself. She couldn't. The last attack took everything out from her. The elixir's healing speed was too slow. Leonora could not be saved. Just then, Arthur sensed someone sneaking on them. Clara's shadow pounced on the two before he could react. Arthur tried to shield Leonora with his body. Clara's shadow did not attack them. It snatched Arthur's shadow's elemental seed from the corpse and ran away. Arthur wanted to stop the shadow, but he would have to leave Leonora alone during her last moments. He was torn between the choices. And no, Leonora tried to push him away. Go dash. Arthur's expression worsened. Suddenly, he noticed Sean on the path of Clara's shadow. An idea came to him. Sean, stop the shadow. Sean looked injured. Although he had been teleported away by Lucas, and he did not have to face shadows, he still had to fight shadow monsters to return. His body was covered in contamination. Stop the shadow, Sean. Sean raised his sword towards Clara's shadow. The shadow came to a halt. It tried to look for a way to escape, but before it could take more steps, Arthur wrung his blood dry and fired an air bullet spell. The attack, although simple, was powerful. It tore through the air like a cannon. Clara's shadow, injured during the battle with Lucas, could not dodge. However, Sean blocked the attack with his sword. Arthur froze. What are you doing? She is my sister. W will protect her. I won't lose her again. Sean shielded Clara's shadow with his body. His words made the shadow's face contort into one of a fury. It recalled how Sean's shadow, her brother, died at the hand of Sean's friend. Clara's shadow raised her sword. Dodge! Arthur shouted. Sean moved instinctively after hearing his voice, and the blade grazed his back lightly. He turned around, stunned. Why are you attacking me, CLA Clara? I'm your brother. The shadow opened her mouth. Her appearance changed, from a shadowy figure of Clara to one that was more real. The change was the proof of increasing synchronization. I'm not your sister. The shadow glared at Sean. You kill my brother. She wanted to attack again, but she knew time was running out. Neo, Lucas, and others would soon return. Clara's shadow had to make sure Arthur's shadow survived if she wanted revenge. Because she knew Sean's shadow was devoured, she ran away. Sean did not try to stop her. Arthur was too exhausted to move after the last attack. Cough, cough. Leonora's voice snapped Arthur out of the stupor. He tried to think of a way to save her. Yes, Neo. He had a powerful elixir he used to attach your hand. We can save you with that. He hurriedly pressed the earpiece. Neo, I need your help. Come here quickly. What happened? There is no time to explain. Please be quick. There was a short silence before Neo answered. Got it. After cutting the connection, Arthur hit Leonora's cheek slightly. He could not see more deaths. Don't sleep. Just don't sleep. Leonora, if you can hear me, use your holy affinity. It did not take him long to realize she was out of divine energy. He took out a divine energy vial and tried to have Leonora drink it. Before he could put the vial against her lips, someone grabbed his hand. Stop. She'll overdose and die a painful death if she drinks more elixirs. Arthur turned around when he heard the voice. Neo held his hand while Nathan, Lucas, and Harrison stepped through a portal. Their condition made it clear they had a hard time against whatever they fought. Neo? What are you saying? The elixir I used to reattach her arm was a strong one. She needs to wait for a day before consuming any more elixir. All right, the elixir. You have a strong elixir, right? Use it. Neo exhaled. I only had one. Arthur's face stiffened. Then. He looked at Leonora. Neo followed his gaze. The presence of death around her was thick. It's too late for her. Neo knew it was his fault. If only he had insisted on leaving Leonora behind at depth level 2. If only he had saved the healing elixir instead of using it to reattach her arm. If only. There were too many things he could have done better. She died because of his wrong choices. Not just her. Christian, Clara, Kendrick, Gwen. Their deaths were his responsibility. He was the mission leader. He should have done better. But it was already too late. Neo was not going to run away from his responsibilities or deny them. He took a breath. I will revive them, no matter how long it took or how hard it was. It won't be easy to do that. I can't let the information about resurrection ritual leak. I need to find perfect sacrifices, and I have to make sure their bodies don't rot until I can resurrect them. He clenched his fists. Could he successfully do that? How long would it take to complete the preparations? The weight of failure was overwhelming him. Neo, what should we do? Arthur's voice jolted him back to reality. He stared at Leonora and made his decision. She was in pain. Neo crouched. Red lightning crackled around his hand. I'll end it painlessly for you. The portal never materialized. Unknown to Arthur's shadow, Neo had just slayed Lucas' shadow. The shadow could not escape. Arthur didn't hesitate. He dashed forward with all his might. In one swift motion, he plunged the dagger into the shadow's chest and smashed the vial of shadow ink inside its mouth. The shadow gasped. Its eyes widened, and it tried to puke the shadow ink. The poison coursed through its veins, and it died a slow death, unable to do anything. Arthur almost collapsed. He was exhausted beyond limit after pushing himself to fight the shadow. Despite the seemingly simple battle, he had to block multiple attacks of the shadow that was boosted by Invincible. He rushed to Leonora. Wait a second. I'll use an elixir. Use your holy affinity too. That will definitely heal you. He tried to pull another vial and poured it over her wound with trembling hands. Her body was limp. Blood still trickled from the wound at her throat, but her eyes, though fading, remained fierce. The dash. Leonora tried to speak and choked on her blood. She did not try to use her holy affinity to heal herself. She couldn't. The last attack took everything out from her. The elixir's healing speed was too slow. Leonora could not be saved. Just then, Arthur sensed someone sneaking on them. Clara's shadow pounced on the two before he could react. Arthur tried to shield Leonora with his body. Clara's shadow did not attack them. It snatched Arthur's shadow's elemental seed from the corpse and ran away. Arthur wanted to stop the shadow, but he would have to leave Leonora alone during her last moments. He was torn between the choices. And no, Leonora tried to push him away. Go dash. Arthur's expression worsened. Suddenly, he noticed Sean on the path of Clara's shadow. An idea came to him. Sean stopped the shadow. Sean looked injured. Although he had been teleported away by Lucas, and he did not have to face shadows, he still had to fight shadow monsters to return. His body was covered in contamination. Stop the shadow, Sean. Sean raised his sword towards Clara's shadow. The shadow came to a halt. It tried to look for a way to escape, but before it could take more steps, Arthur wrung his blood dry and fired an air bullet spell. The attack, although simple, was powerful. It tore through the air like a cannon. Clara's shadow, injured during the battle with Lucas, could not dodge. However, Sean blocked the attack with his sword. Arthur froze. What are you doing? She is my sister. Will protect her. I won't lose her again. Sean shielded Clara's shadow with his body. His words made the shadow's face contort into one of fury. It recalled how Sean's shadow, her brother, died at the hand of Sean's friend. Clara's shadow raised her sword. Dod! Arthur shouted. Sean moved instinctively after hearing his voice, and the blade grazed his back lightly. He turned around, stunned. Why are you attacking me, Clara? I'm your brother. The shadow opened her mouth. Her appearance changed, from a shadowy figure of Clara to one that was more real. The change was the proof of increasing synchronization. I'm not your sister. The shadow glared at Sean. You killed my brother. She wanted to attack again, but she knew time was running out. Neo, Lucas, and others would soon return. Clara's shadow had to make sure Arthur's shadow survived if she wanted revenge, because she knew Sean's shadow was devoured. She ran away. Sean did not try to stop her. Arthur was too exhausted to move after the last attack. Cough, cough. Leonora's voice snapped Arthur out of the stupor. He tried to think of a way to save her. Yes, Neo. He had a powerful elixir he used to attach your hand. We can save you with that. He hurriedly pressed the earpiece. Neo, I need your help. Come here quickly. What happened? There's no time to explain. Please be quick. There was a short silence before Neo answered. Got it. After cutting the connection, Arthur hit Leonora's cheek slightly. He could not see more deaths. Don't sleep. Just don't sleep. Leonora, if you can hear me, use your holy affinity. It did not take him long to realize she was out of divine energy. He took out a divine energy vial and tried to have Leonora drink it. Before he could put the vial against her lips, someone grabbed his hand. Stop. She'll overdose and die a painful death if she drinks more elixirs. Arthur turned around when he heard the voice. Neo held his hand while Nathan, Lucas, and Harrison stepped through a portal. Their condition made it clear they had a hard time against whatever they fought. Neo, what are you saying? The elixir I used to reattach her arm was a strong one. She needs to wait for a day before consuming any more elixir. All right, the elixir. You have a strong elixir, right? Use it. Neo exhaled. I only had one. Arthur's face stiffened. Then. He looked at Leonora. Neo followed his gaze. The presence of death around her was thick. It's too late for her. Neo knew it was his fault. If only he had insisted on leaving Leonora behind at depth level 2. If only he had saved the healing elixir instead of using it to reattach her arm. If only. There were too many things he could have done better. She died because of his wrong choices. Not just her. Christian, Clara, Kendrick, Gwen. Their deaths were his responsibility. He was the mission leader. He should have done better. But it was already too late. Neo was not going to run away from his responsibilities or deny them. He took a breath. I will revive them, no matter how long it took or how hard it was. It won't be easy to do that. I can't let the information about resurrection ritual leak. I need to find perfect sacrifices, and I have to make sure their bodies don't rot until I can resurrect them. He clenched his fists. Could he successfully do that? How long would it take to complete the preparations? The weight of failure was overwhelming him. Neo, what should we do? Arthur's voice jolted him back to reality. He stared at Leonora and made his decision. She was in pain. Neo crouched. Red lightning crackled around his hand. I'll end it painlessly for you. Leonora nodded with difficulty. Before Neo could push the aura of death into her body, Arthur grabbed his hand. What are you doing? You will kill her. Stop this. We can still save. Arthur, face the truth already. What truth? Can't you see she's still alive? Arthur grabbed Neo's collar. Lucas and Nathan were about to intervene until Neo raised his hand to stop them. He looked Arthur in the eye. Arthur lowered his gaze after a few seconds. I'm sorry. I overreacted. He let go of Neo's collar. This is my fault. Why am I even shouting at you? He looked as if he was about to cry. Neo opened his mouth. It's not your fault. She was not just strong enough. What? Arthur looked at Neo as if he had heard something absurd. The shadow used invincible, didn't it? That means it forcefully revived itself by fusing with another elemental seed. It should have been weaker due to it, and she died to that. Arthur punched Neo in the face before he could say another word. He would have attacked Neo again, if not for others holding back. Neo staggered. Arthur glared at him. What did you just say? Is that how you talk about your friend who just died? Condensed golden lightning flickered around Arthur. The lightning disappeared after a brief moment. He is angry after watching his friends die, and he is exhausted. It's still not enough to break his seal. That bastard is a sadist to have left such seal on his own child, Neo thought as he wiped the blood trickling down his nose. Neo knew his words were insulting to those who died, but he had to corner Arthur physically and mentally while the opportunity presented and try to break the seal on his unique skill. Did I say something wrong? The condensed golden lightning did not return. After knowing the seal was nowhere close to its breaking point, Neo ignored Arthur and approached Leonora. She was dead. Store her corpse, he said to Nathan. Neo turned to Arthur. What happened here? I know you guys lost, but how did your shadow escape? Arthur clenched his jaw as he retold everything except Sean's actions. Neo could guess it, but he did not say anything for the moment. We'll take a short break before moving again. The group sat down. Lucas drank a healing potion to tend to his injuries. Harrison was weakened after using Invincible and being almost turned to a shadow monster before being baptized. His mental state was worse. Sean sat in the far corner. He pulled his knees closer and muttered gibberish. The venomous words Clara's shadow spat at him dealt a huge blow to him. Arthur approached Neo. He no longer looked like he was about to cry, and he stared down at Neo with a hardened expression. Did you know already? Know what? About how many among us would die. You did, right? You have an unusually strong connection to death. You should be able to see more than normal death wielders. That's the domain of fate affinity. Did you know or not? Arthur's eyes glowed. Looks like I really pissed him off if he's using that spell. Lying when Arthur's eyes were glowing was useless. Neo had to speak the truth. I did my best to make sure no one died. Arthur bit his lips after hearing his answer. His eyes stopped glowing, and he looked away. After the short break, Neo gave the orders. Harrison, Nathan, Arthur, and Sean will secure the corner, and Lucas and I will go rescue Jack. Nathan already explained to Arthur that Neo defeated Lucas's shadow instead of securing the corner, and so did Lucas explain to Harrison. It came as a huge shock to them, but there was no time to question Neo about it. You will rescue Jack? Nathan questioned. Yes, he is a shadow wielder. He should be revived at the end of the window any time now. I don't plan to leave him there and escape alone. He is alive? Arthur blinked. His eyes gained a bit of hope. Neo turned to Nathan for the explanation. Yes, we shadow wielders need to consume our shadows to awaken the shadow element. That makes us half shadows. We can revive, just like the shadows. It takes a long time, and there are more restrictions, but we can do it, Nathan said. So that's how it works? It was never explained in the novel properly, Neo thought. He remembered the shadow element book he took from library. It didn't talk about consuming one's own shadow to awaken the element. Either what Nathan said was a secret way of awakening, or it happened naturally during the awakening and barely anyone noticed it. Neo looked at Lucas. Arthur's shadow will take time to revive, and they can't travel quickly without your shadow's help. We can rescue Jack and close the window without fighting against Arthur's shadow if we are fast enough. That's why I want your help. I'll understand it if you refuse my request, since it's not part of the mission. Lucas portals would increase their movement speed by a large margin. It was why Neo wanted Lucas to enter the window with them. Besides rescuing Jack, I have the quest to complete, and I need to get that thing from the end of the window. I can't leave without completing all tasks. Can I count on your help? Of course. Lucas smiled. Neo explained how they should secure the corner. He left with Lucas after giving a detailed plan for different scenarios to the group. Lucas created multiple portals to cover the distance quickly. After entering depth level 4, Lucas reduced the usage of portals. The presence of non-elemental divine energy became scarce as the depth level increased. If they continued to use portals, Lucas would have exhausted himself before they reached the end of the window. Let's use portals to avoid monsters. It's good enough we don't need to waste our time on them, Neo said. Understood. While they were moving towards the doorway of depth level 5, Neo spoke. It might sound rude, but I was surprised when you accepted my request so easily. Thank you. Don't worry about it. It was an order from my clan, and it's the reason why I've been saving my skill. Invincible, Lucas whispered. Golden lightning crackled around him. In one swift motion, he pulled out the bow from his back and aimed at Neo's head. Time seemed to slow down. I've been ordered to eliminate you. Lucas released the arrow. Neo, aware of the incoming attack due to his death affinity, dodged by a hair's margin. In that short moment, Lucas was already far away from him. He drew the bow and smiled. I can see you did not defeat my shadow through a stroke of coincidence. Why the sudden attack? You were listening to all my orders since the beginning. Was all of it an act 2 for this moment? Neo frowned. Indeed, I wanted to finish it with a surprise attack. But I failed since you were a wielder of death. Unlike what Lucas expected, Neo was calm. He was not surprised by his betrayal. You seem awfully composed. Do I? Neo never trusted Lucas. Why would he trust him when he tried to kill Neo along with the Phoenix during the A-rank mission? And it was better this way. He could fight Arthur alone after the fallout with Lucas. It feels weird how he really did what I expected him to do. Guess I can't expect more from a third-rate villain. Lucas pursed his lips when he saw Neo unsheathing his sword. Aren't you curious why my clan ordered to eliminate you? Not really. I can guess it's something related to Zeus' clan not wanting another great god clan to appear and compete with them. That's terrifyingly close to the truth. Lucas chuckled. But you know what? I have even more surprising news. You aren't the first demigod to awaken Hades' bloodline. Do you know what happened to your predecessors? They were eliminated. Just like you will be. Lucas shot arrows through the portals. Neo ducked to dodge the attack and dashed forward. He used the floating wreckage as footholds to bridge the gap between him and Lucas. Suddenly, a portal appeared directly in his path. There was no time to react. Neo was running too fast. His momentum carried him forward into the portal. In an instant, he was spat out on the opposite side of the battlefield, far from where he had been. Neo fell from the sky. He used the wreckages to break his fall. The sudden shift disoriented him. It made him nauseous. Worse, the distance between him and Lucas increased after he was teleported away. This is going to be tricky. Neo tightened his muscles. He shot forward with explosive speed, but the same situation repeated. Every time he got close, Lucas would use a portal to teleport him away or slip away himself. The sudden shifts due to teleportation gave Neo motion sickness. It made it difficult for him to dodge the arrows that shot out from the fist-sized portals that suddenly appeared around him. Neo's heart raced. Lucas' advantage was too overwhelming. His speed, his precise control over the battlefield, the way he used the portals to maintain the distance. Neo couldn't keep up. He was losing, and they both knew it. Damn it, I wanted to save this for Arthur's shadow. Neo exhaled. He called out to Obitus. His blessing. Now's the time, he thought. An immense surge of energy exploded through him. His muscles tensed, his senses sharpened, and his perception of the world increased dramatically. Overwhelming power. He hadn't felt it for ages. Neo bolted towards Lucas. He moved faster than before and dodged arrows with ease. Lucas' eyes widened. Neo had become faster. fast enough to almost match him. The battlefield became a blur of movement. Lucas' arrows whistled through the air, and Neo deflected them with ease. Every time Neo was teleported away, he returned faster. Every arrow Lucas fired, Neo evaded or parried. It seems as if victory was within Neo's grasp. But he knew they couldn't continue fighting like this. The blessing was consuming a great deal of his divine energy. With Neo and Lucas in a stalemate, the battle had become a test of endurance. And Neo, a mere grade 4 awakened demigod, would run out of divine energy faster than Lucas. His heart raced as a plan formed in his mind. Dangerous, reckless, but the only way he could win. Neo launched himself at Lucas. He ran while making sudden shifts to throw off Lucas. His affinity did not warn him of the portals since they were not life-threatening. But he was beginning to understand their timing. He was learning. Lucas stopped smiling long ago. He hadn't expected Neo to be strong enough to match him while he was boosted by Invincible. Just as he prepared to use another portal to escape, this time in desperation, Neo was already before him. Red lightning and black flames flickered around Neo's blade. It seemed Neo had won when suddenly Lucas smiled. Got you. Multiple portals materialized around them in an instant. Condensed beams of energy shot out from them. Lucas did not dodge. The Invincible would protect him. Neo, however, was not so lucky. Why are you unharmed? I have a good defense spell. Neo swung his sword. The blade and the aura of death failed to penetrate far into his skin, but he was heavily injured. Before Neo could attack again, Lucas created a portal beneath his and slipped away. The portal did not disappear immediately. It was blocked with some kind of translucent screen. Lucas stood on the other side. He pressed his injury to stop the blood from flowing out and stared at Neo with tired eyes and a smile on his face. Aren't you a bit too strong for someone who awakened less than a month ago? Yes, I am. And stop smiling, asshole. You look fucking creepy. I'm just happy I won. Won? You say that after running away with your tail between your legs. Lucas continued to smile. Neo clicked his tongue. It was true. He lost, and Lucas won. Lucas stopped him. You can't. Neo ordered me to make sure no one, especially you and Mars, try to rescue him. But, I don't know how, but the shadow revived too quickly. Maybe there is another shadow at their base, and it fused your shadow's elemental seed with another elemental seed to speed up the revival. Lucas added, it means the shadow is weaker than the last time you faced it. Still, are you sure we can win against your shadow? Harrison used his skill to defeat his shadow. I used mine to help Neo fight your shadow, but we lost, and I had to escape while Neo shielded for me. Leonora is dead. You are tired. Mars is strong, but he is a poor matchup with your shadow. There is no way we can win. If we don't use the time Neo brought us to close the window and escape. Lucas clenched his fist. He bit his lips until they bled. His sacrifice will be useless. Arthur gritted his teeth. I'll recuse Neo. He was about to leave when suddenly Lucas spoke. Tell Arthur I'm sorry for what I said about everyone's death, Lucas said. Those were his last words. Arthur froze. His face contorted. Tears simmered in his eyes. He knew he could not rescue Neo, and he would be himself killed by his shadow. Trying to rescue Neo was a suicide mission. Arthur was prepared to throw his life away. However, Arthur's shadow would kill not just him, but everyone if they did not escape as soon as possible. Damn it, no one deserved to die, even if they were weak. Those were Arthur's ideals, and it was why he argued with Neo. Is this your way of saying, I shouldn't throw my life away? Arthur struggled to compose himself. He clenched his fists so tightly that his nails dug into his palms and drew blood. We'll close the corners and escape, he said. Arthur felt disgusted with himself for saying those words. His heart was filled with regret. The last thing he talked about with Neo was not a friendly banter, a heartfelt talk, or even a casual conversation. It was him blaming Neo. He had been angry with Neo because Neo claimed Leonora's weakness was the cause of her death, because he seemed to disregard the value of life. But now, Neo, despite disregarding the value of life, was sacrificing himself to give them a chance to live. And Arthur, the one who acted like a justice incarnate, was running away and leaving Neo to fend for himself. In the end, he was just a hypocrite. Depth level 5. Fuck, I feel like shit. Neo pulled out the sword from the corpse of the shadow monster. He had no way to avoid the battles without Lucas' help, and he ended up fighting every shadow monster on his way to depth level 5. His clothes were torn, he was bleeding all over, and he was exhausted. He fixed his gas mask. At depth level 5, the mask was not enough to stop the contamination from shadow elementals. He had to use Ocean's Embrace with the mask to block the shadow elementals from contaminating him. This whole place is shit, right? Neo asked. He looked up at Arthur's shadow, who was sitting on the edge of rooftop a short distance away. The shadow nodded. It is. That aside, I didn't expect you to appear like this. I thought you would start with a sneak attack. It's useless against you. You'll probably sense the attack before it can even reaches you. You could have used Invincible to deliver an attack fast enough that I couldn't react to it. Neo pointed out. A quick attack like that wouldn't have made it past your defense spell. It blocked my attack last time too. While they talked, Neo uncapped the divine energy elixir given to him by Elizabeth and drank it. Since you were kind enough to wait for me, let me drink these. He popped open the Academy's divine energy elixirs and poured them into his mouth. His stomach felt like it was burning. Immense pain surged through his body. Feeling the overdose, he wondered if Leonora had felt the same. Neo's eyes turned bloodshot and blood trickled down his nose. Since the air barely had non-elemental divine energy at depth level 5, he could not use Essence Breath spell to recover his divine energy. This was the only way. He had to use everything if he wanted to have a chance against Arthur's shadow. The shadow opened his mouth. Wait a second, I don't want to fight. I know you must be angry because I killed your friends. But that was because it's the shadow's, instinct to consume the original and take over them. I wasn't in my right state of mind back then. I was driven by my instincts. Arthur's shadow clenched its fists. I don't want to do that anymore. I understand my actions were wrong, and I want to apologize for them. I'll do anything to repent. You want to repent? Neo questioned. He asked Obitus to remove his debuff and unseal his blessing. In a split second, he disappeared and reappeared before Arthur's shadow. He slashed. The shadow, expecting the attack, dodged and used Invincible to create a gap between them. He jumped far back. So we have to fight in the end, Arthur's shadow said. Stop being melodramatic. I can sense your hidden bloodlust. It's clear as day you're just waiting for me to let my guard down. Neo covered his blade, an aura of death and darkness. Arthur's shadows stopped the act when it realized Neo was not going to let down his guard. Both of them stood still. They eyed each other, careful to not miss a single movement. The shadow moved first. It dashed towards Neo, leaving behind trails of black lightning. Neo leapt to the side. He dodged the attack just in time and landed on a drifting chunk of metal. The shadow followed up with a strike that sent another wave of sound magic towards him. It distorted the air and shook the wreckage around them. The shadow followed up with a strike that sent another wave of sound magic towards him. It distorted the air and shook the wreckage around them. Neo grunted. His ears were ringing and he was disoriented. Arthur's shadow disappeared. The shadow is faster than me. I will lose if I face it in a contest of speed. Neo knew he was vulnerable. He closed his eyes and spread out his senses. Suddenly, he twisted his wrist and blocked the invisible blade. Arthur's shadow canceled its invisibility and retreated. As I thought, surprise attacks are useless against you. The shadow maintained an emotionless face. It used its superior agility to attack Neo from different directions. The attacks were perfectly timed and savage. Each one of them was aimed at Neo's vital. The shadow disappeared into the debris with a swift movement. It used the environment to hide itself. A faint crackling echoed. Neo barely had time to react before the shadow reappeared above him. He blocked with his sword, but the force of the blow sent him skidding back, and he nearly fell off the floating platform. Neo narrowed his eyes. Fighting against Arthur's shadow was eerily similar to his fight against Lucas. Just this time, the shadow wasn't relying on portals. It was using pure speed and overwhelming force. Suddenly, A gust of wind surged around Neo. His senses screamed danger, and he rolled away without thinking. A beat later, a blade of air sliced through the space he'd been just standing in. The shadow disappeared again, leaving behind trails of black lightning. It used the floating wreckages to its advantage, slipping in and out of view as it hid behind them, much like Lucas had done with his portals. Neo cursed under his breath. He knew he couldn't keep up with Shadow's speed for long. His divine energy was decreasing at a fearsome speed, and Arthur's shadow was nowhere close to being exhausted. Sweat dripped down Neo's brow as he dodged another barrage of strikes. The shadow kept using quick attacks to drain his stamina. It knew Neo could not continue fighting for long. Neo exhaled. He had to take the risk. After condensing his aura of death on the tip of the blade and stabbing into the ground, he made it explode. Arcs of red lightning burst into the surrounding with no rhyme and rhythm. They killed whatever they touched. The air, the soil, the wreckage. Everything started to crumble into nothingness. Arthur's shadow had nowhere left to hide. Neo bolted towards the shadow with an explosive speed. Their blades clashed. They exchanged blows at a speed invisible to naked eye. The impact sent shockwaves through the floating debris, but Neo held firm. Neo needed to end this fast. His eyes were peeled open, looking for even the slightest opening, while he parried one strike after another. There was no opening in the shadow's defense. Neo would have to create one himself. He suddenly launched himself backward and tried to put distance between him and the shadow. The shadow sensed an opportunity and pressed for the attack. It launched a barrage of lightning and air bullet spells to corner Neo. But Neo wasn't retreating. He was baiting. Before the shadow could react, he stopped retreating and a massive power surged from his sword. Neo slashed. The air around his blade distorted as it raced toward the shadow. For a moment, the shadow's eyes widened in realization. It couldn't dodge. The attack was too close and too fast. The blade sliced through its neck without any resistance. There was no resistance? Shit. Neo scanned his surroundings. He didn't kill anything. The shadow in front of him was a mirage. It was created through a magic spell. When did the shadow switch with a mirage? Neo's senses rang, and before he could react, a dagger pierced his gas mask. The translucent energy field covering his body shattered, and the shadow elementals stuck to his skin. You've lost. Arthur's shadow appeared only a bit far from him. It had thrown the dagger while Neo was distracted, and, although he sensed the attack, he was not fast enough to dodge it. Neo used Ocean's Embrace at full power and wrapped his body in aura of darkness. Both of them combined reduced the shadow elementals seeping into his body. But he was only delaying the inevitable. The mask is your lifeline. You'll die without me doing anything. Neo fell to his knees. He grabbed his neck as if he couldn't breathe. Arthur's shadow approached Neo and stabbed the dagger in Neo's neck. It stared at Neo's corpse and the blood pouring out of the wound for a few seconds before turning around. Suddenly, Neo came back to life and he grabbed the shadow's leg. His injury stared to heal. He used necrotic touch before Arthur's shadow could react. The shadow's leg began to crumble. It was forced to slice off its leg before its entire body crumbled. How are you still alive? I killed you just now. Yeah, you did kill me. Neo stood up. The shadow gritted its teeth. After losing one of its legs, it couldn't escape. However, Neo, even if alive, had his mask destroyed. It was a draw. He could kill Arthur's shadow before he died, but he would die too. Why are you completely fine? The shadow asked. Neo looked at himself. The high-density shadow elementals should have killed him again after he used Immortal to revive himself. But he was completely fine. It can't be due to my bloodline. Even Zeus clan's descendant can't stay in the windows connected to World of Lightning without proper gear. Arthur's shadow opened its mouth. I see. I understand now. You are a shadow who consumed the original and took his place. That's why the shadow elementals aren't harmful to you. It glared at Neo. Why are you attacking me when both of us belong to the same side? Neo was not a shadow. He never devoured the original Neo and took his place. Suddenly, Neo froze. What happened to the previous Neo? The video recording he received said someone killed the original Neo. Then, why was not there any injury on the body? What if the different transmigrators who possessed the original Neo were all shadows? No, that can't be possible. Every person has only one shadow. The original Neo can't have multiple shadows. Neo did not understand what was happening. He exhaled. I'll think about it later. First, I need to complete the task before me. He stood in front of Arthur's shadow. The shadow did not try to fight back. It knew its fate was sealed. Any last words? Last words. Arthur's shadow smirked. Shadows never die. We'll meet again, and next time, I'll make sure you stay dead. You damned traitor. Neo sliced the shadow's head off its shoulder. Quest completion notification appeared in his vision. He ignored them. Damn it, I feel like shit even though I won. Neo used Immortal. There was nothing wrong with using his skill in the battle. Still, he felt like had cheated. It wasn't the type of victory he wanted. Fuck, this is almost as if I'm weaker than Arthur. Neo clenched his fist. He would surpass Arthur. He didn't care if Arthur was the protagonist or the hero who was destined to save the worlds. Neo was not going to give up. Depth level 3. Lucas activated the device. A spatial ring formed around the crack in the space, the corner, and it tried to forcefully close the crack. At the side, Nathan used the communication device to alert the other teams on depth level 2. Mars, Felix, and Cassandra used the device to close their corners. The 3 corners were closed at the same time. It's done. The window will soon close. We need to leave. Lucas created a portal. Arthur didn't step into the portal immediately. Arthur, we can't waste time. Arthur nodded and entered the portal with downcast eyes. The group moved towards the doorway of depth level 2 at a quick pace with help of portals. They met with Felix, Mars, and Cassandra. Where are the others? Mars asked. Arthur shook his head. Mars' face hardened. He did not say anything for a few moments. I see. A sigh escaped his lips. Let's leave, he said. The group returned to depth level 1 quickly and left the window with the help of the portals. The principal, Charlotte, and Elizabeth, disguised as Anna, were waiting for them. Good work. The medical team will take care of the injured. All of you can take a rest for 3 days. You'll receive your reward after that. Charlotte did not ask about the missing students. It was easy to guess what happened to those who did not return. She looked at the slowly closing giant tear in the sky. Suddenly, Elizabeth took a step. Rings of fire materialized around Elizabeth. Before the students could realize what was happening, Charlotte's dolls teleported them away. She stared at Elizabeth. Where are you trying to go? To save Neo. He wouldn't have died. Elizabeth was about to break the flames created by Charlotte until she sensed multiple powerful presences in vicinity. They were hiding, but their bloodlust was as clear as day. Master, did you prepare those people to stop me? Yes, I did, since I knew you would try to enter the window if that boy died there. Elizabeth clenched her fists. She could sense someone as strong as herself among those people brought by Charlotte. Elise, we can't risk bringing out your shadow. If that thing appears when you enter the window, there will be countless causalities. We can't afford such scenario. I'll defeat my shadow. You can't. No one could defeat their own shadow. Elizabeth realized her master would not let her enter the window. There was no other choice. A spear materialized in her hand, and the gravity around her started to go out of control. Before she could take a step, Charlotte sighed. Fine, I accept it. The boy is alive. I can see him. He has defeated the Kingsley boy shadow just now. Then that means I can still save. No, the boy doesn't need your help. Charlotte looked at the window that was nearly closed. He isn't even trying to return. I'm sure he has a plan. That's no excuse to leave him there. Elizabeth was about to leave when suddenly her vision blurred. Her body grew weak, and she lost consciousness before she could realize what was going on. Charlotte looked at the teacher's staff room far into the distance. Inside, an old man was drinking his coffee. He smiled bitterly. The lass is quite strong. It took me an entire day to knock her out. Thank you. The old man and Charlotte talked, as if they were sitting next to each other, even though they were thousands of meters apart. Don't mind it. But is this okay? What will happen when the lass wakes up? There will be mayhem. Charlotte massaged her brows. As she watched the window disappear, She hoped, prayed. Neo had a plan to return alive by the time Elizabeth woke up. Inner castle, depth level 5. The shadow monster attacked. Its massive arm hit Jack's abdomen. His body flew back and crashed into the wall. Cough! Cough! Jack was caught by the shadow monsters. He didn't even realize how long he had been fighting for. He bled from the multiple wounds inflicted on his body. The shadow monster tried to grab his neck. Jack hurriedly slipped into the shadows on the ground and tried to escape, but the shadow monster tailed him. When a monster left the hall, running after Jack, a shadow appeared inside the hall. It was Jack. He fell to the ground, exhausted and injured. I need to keep moving. The double won't fool them for long. Jack used the shadow double spell to create a doppelganger and baited the shadow monster with it. He had to escape while the shadow monster was gone. Just as he tried to stand and run away, he noticed dozens of shadow monsters patrolling the corridor outside of the hall. Ah ha ha ha! A hollow laugh escaped his lips. Tears slipped down his cheeks. He couldn't escape. Invincible, Lucas whispered. Golden lightning crackled around him. In one swift motion, he pulled out the bow from his back and aimed at Neo's head. Time seemed to slow down. I've been ordered to eliminate you. Lucas released the arrow. Neo, aware of the incoming attack due to his death affinity, dodged by a hair's margin. In that short moment, Lucas was already far away from him. He drew the bow and smiled. I can see you did not defeat my shadow through a stroke of coincidence. Why the sudden attack? You were listening to all my orders since the beginning. Was all of it an act 2 for this moment? Neo frowned. Indeed, I wanted to finish it with a surprise attack. But I failed since you were a wielder of death. Unlike what Lucas expected, Neo was calm. He was not surprised by his betrayal. You seem awfully composed. Do I? Neo never trusted Lucas. Why would he trust him when he tried to kill Neo along with the Phoenix during the A-rank mission? And it was better this way. He could fight Arthur alone after the fallout with Lucas. It feels weird how he really did what I expected him to do. Guess I can't expect more from a third-rate villain. Lucas pursed his lips when he saw Neo unsheathing his sword. Aren't you curious why my clan ordered to eliminate you? Not really. I can guess it's something related to Zeus' clan not wanting another great god clan to appear and compete with them. That's terrifyingly close to the truth. Lucas chuckled. But you know what? I have even more surprising news. You aren't the first demigod to awaken Hades' bloodline. Do you know what happened to your predecessors? They were eliminated, just like you will be. Lucas shot arrows through the portals. Neo ducked to dodge the attack and dashed forward. He used the floating wreckage as footholds to bridge the gap between him and Lucas. Suddenly, a portal appeared directly in his path. There was no time to react. Neo was running too fast. His momentum carried him forward into the portal. In an instant, he was spat out on the opposite side of the battlefield, far from where he had been. Neo fell from the sky. He used the wreckages to break his fall. The sudden shift disoriented him. It made him nauseous. Worse, the distance between him and Lucas increased after he was teleported away. This is going to be tricky. Neo tightened his muscles. He shot forward with explosive speed, but the same situation repeated. Every time he got close, Lucas would use a portal to teleport him away or slip away himself. The sudden shifts due to teleportation gave Neo motion sickness. It made it difficult for him to dodge the arrows that shot out from the fist-sized portals that suddenly appeared around him. Neo's heart raced. Lucas' advantage was too overwhelming. His speed, his precise control over the battlefield, the way he used the portals to maintain the distance. Neo couldn't keep up. He was losing, and they both knew it. Damn it, I wanted to save this for Arthur's shadow. Neo exhaled. He called out to Obitus. His blessing. Now's the time, he thought. An immense surge of energy exploded through him. His muscles tensed, his senses sharpened, and his perception of the world increased dramatically. Overwhelming power. He hadn't felt it for ages. Neo bolted towards Lucas. He moved faster than before and dodged arrows with ease. Lucas' eyes widened. Neo had become faster. Fast enough to almost match him. The battlefield became a blur of movement. Lucas' arrows whistled through the air, and Neo deflected them with ease. Every time Neo was teleported away, he returned faster. Every arrow Lucas fired, Neo evaded or parried. It seems as if victory was within Neo's grasp. But he knew they couldn't continue fighting like this. The blessing was consuming a great deal of his divine energy. With Neo and Lucas in a stalemate, the battle had become a test of endurance. And Neo, a mere grade 4 awakened demigod, would run out of divine energy faster than Lucas. His heart raced as a plan formed in his mind. Dangerous, reckless, but the only way he could win. Neo launched himself at Lucas. He ran while making sudden shifts to throw off Lucas. His affinity did not warn him of the portals since they were not life-threatening. But he was beginning to understand their timing. He was learning. Lucas stopped smiling long ago. He hadn't expected Neo to be strong enough to match him while he was boosted by Invincible. Just as he prepared to use another portal to escape, this time in desperation, Neo was already before him. Red lightning and black flames flickered around Neo's blade. It seemed Neo had won when suddenly Lucas smiled. Got you. Multiple portals materialized around them in an instant. Condensed beams of energy shot out from them. Lucas did not dodge. The Invincible would protect him. Neo, however, was not so lucky. Why are you unharmed? I have a good defense spell. Neo swung his sword. The blade and the aura of death failed to penetrate far into his skin, but he was heavily injured. Before Neo could attack again, Lucas created a portal beneath his beneath and slipped away. The portal did not disappear immediately. It was blocked with some kind of translucent screen. Lucas stood on the other side. He pressed his injury to stop the blood from flowing out and stared at Neo with tired eyes and a smile on his face. Aren't you a bit too strong for someone who awakened less than a month ago? Yes, I am. And stop smiling, asshole. You look fucking creepy. I'm just happy I won. Won? You say that after running away with your tail between your legs. Lucas continued to smile. Neo clicked his tongue. It was true. He lost, and Lucas won.